The following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway stands empty most of the year. On race day, it comes alive. The silent track waits for traditional ceremonies. The long straightaways beckon the sleek machines and their brave pilots. Once a year, the grandstands fill, and each year adds to history. Speed was a part of the mix from the very first race. Ray Haroon, averaging 74 miles an hour, took the first checkered flag. In 1925, Peter DePaulo was the first to average over 100 miles an hour. 65 years later, Holland's Arie Luyendyk drove the fastest race ever at over 185 miles an hour. Arie's first IndyCar win was worth $1 million. This year, too, the Speedway has been kind to Arie.
And Arie Luyendyk is on the pole.
The track is as important as speed. The 40s were tough on the Brickyard, beginning with a race morning garage fire in 1941. It was deserted during the war and became a shambles. Today, it's a proud monument to its owner's love of the sport. There have been great moments of emotion. Sam Hanks, after 12 tries, driving tearfully into victory lane and retiring. Or 2 weeks ago, when the grand champion took his last lap.
Here he is, A.J. White.
There were tears here, too. Indy draws drivers from around the globe. The start in 1966 saw a crash that eliminated most contenders. 500 miles later, Formula One champion Englishman Graham Hill wore the winner's wreath. Last year, three-time Formula One champion Nelson Piquet was eliminated in a devastating crash in practice. Today, he is back. Now, the reigning Formula One champion Nigel Mansell is trying to duplicate Hill's feat. His teammate, Mario Andretti, won here in 1969. Since then, he has been ravaged by bad luck. Today, the most experienced driver in the field starts in the middle of the front row. Here, history has a way of repeating itself. In 1982, a crash at the start eliminated 3 contenders. The race ended with Gordon Johncock beating Rick Mears in the closest finish to that date. Last year, pole sitter Roberto Guerrero's race ended even before the start. 500 miles later, Al Unser Jr. beat Scott Goodyear by the closest margin ever. All 3 are back, called again by the Brickyard's challenge. The Speedway is constantly changing. In 1991, Rick Mears passed Michael Andretti on the outside to take his 4th 500 flag. Today, Rick is retired, tutoring Paul Tracy. And Michael is trying his skill in Formula One. Last Sunday saw the unkindest cut of all, as defending PPG champion Bobby Rahal was bumped from the qualifying field. Every driver here today is well aware that a monster lurks behind the Speedway's walls. A moment's lapse can spell disaster. The new breed of challengers know the road can be hard. Paul Tracy is coming off of his first win. Robbie Gordon drives under the guidance of A.J. Foyt. Stefan Gregoire at 24 is the youngest driver and the fastest rookie. Brazilian Raul Boisel will start in the front row. Swede Stefan Johansson looks to his first 500. The waiting is over. Loving hands have prepared the cars, hoping theirs will carry its passenger to victory lane, its bottle of cold milk, and the Borg Warner trophy. It is the pinnacle moment in a driver's life. 200 laps ahead, an antique silver cup waits for a new name to be added. The challenge of the Brickyard begins again. There are 500 miles to go. Live from the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's the 77th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. For drivers, this may be the most tense moment of the year, the final minutes before the start of what is dubbed the greatest spectacle in racing. There are so many new faces and new stories this year. We begin with Jack Arute.
Well, the garage of the pole winner, Arie Luyendyk, is empty. His car is already on the line, and Luyendyk is alone with his thoughts in the back. The biggest problem Luyendyk had this morning was bearing the traffic. Heavy traffic made him 45 minutes late to the Speedway. He hopes it's the only problem he has with traffic all afternoon. Let's check in with another story and Gary Gerald.
Rare Jack is the rookie who comes to Indianapolis commanding as much attention as Nigel Mansell, the reigning World Formula One champion. He comes here for a day of first, his first time to race on an oval, his first time ever to go the 500-mile distance. He's now here with teammate Mario Andretti, pondering those uncertainties in the Newman Haas garage as we go to Jerry Punch.
Gary, last year this Aspen, Colorado resident started from the front row, but last week it took an 11th-hour decision to switch cars, coupled with an electrifying qualifying effort in the final minutes to get the 33rd starting spot in today's field. But in many ways for Eddie Cheever, this may be his most gratifying start to date. Let's check in with Sam Posey.
Lynn St. James was last year's Rookie of the Year, but by her own admission, she drove a cautious race, passing few cars. This year, she wants things to be different. If a troublesome misfire that has plagued her car is cured, Lynn plans a very aggressive race. There have been a lot of changes to the track this year, and Bobby Unser is in turn one to tell us how they will impact the way the race is run. Bobby?
Last year, we had 3-lane passing. This year, there won't be any, and if they do, it's going to be right here in the grass, which won't work. The passing this year is going to happen at the end of the long straightaways, across the short chutes, and everybody's mind this year is where, when, and how. You'll see, and the drivers will figure out how to do it, I promise.
Thank you, Bobby. Today is the most important day in the motorsports calendar. As the clock moves to the start of the engines, a year of dreaming, planning, designing, practicing, and building comes to an end. In the next few minutes, we'll meet the contenders, give you a personalized look at the lineup, and get you up to speed on the latest technological developments. If you don't have a favorite right now, you should be able to pick one by the time the engines start. The IndyCar itself is a unique racing machine designed solely to race this 2.5-mile oval with power plants for the long straightaways. It draws global business concerns, each hoping that their logo will be carried by the winning car. It entices every racing driver to accept its simple 200-lap challenge to drive 800 perfect left-hand turns. But the most spectacular draw of Indy is its fans. The old track has charmed millions in its 82 years. Each year, they or their children or grandchildren return, making this the largest single-day spectator sporting event in the world. For now, they wait. In less than an hour, the focus will be on the starting field. The starting field is made up of 11 rows of 3 cars. We'll start in the back with 33rd position. Eddie Cheever started last year on the front row. This year, Eddie was bumped out of the field, but then requalified in the last hour with a totally different car supplied by another team. Belgium's Didier Taze was a surprise last-minute qualifier. He'll be driving the Hemmelgarn Buick in his third 500. Jim Crawford has led the 500 8 times. He's best known as a development driver for the Buick engine, but this year he drives a Chevy for drag racer Kenny Bernstein. The Scotsman suffered leg injuries in 1987, but he still runs Indy every year. In the 10th row, a sophomore and 2 veterans. Willie T. Ribb starts his second race from the outside of the 10th row, driving for Walker Motorsports. Jeff Brabham is a 4-time GTP champion in his 10th Indy 500. His father, Jack Brabham, brought the first modern rear-engine car here in 1961. Now it's a museum piece for Jeff to enjoy. Davy Jones excels as an endurance sports car racer. This is his third Indy 500. In the 9th row, one of 5 rookies, a sophomore and a veteran. Dominic Dobson is driving the only Galmer in the field. It's the same chassis type that won last year. Hiro Matsushita of Japan is back for his second race. He missed last year after breaking his leg in practice. Rookie Robbie Gordon is driving for A.J. Foyt. In the Indy cars, he finished 3rd this year in Australia. His background is off-road racing. In 1989, he won the Baja 1000 with a 17-hour solo drive. 3 times he's hit the wall in practice this May. But with A.J.'s guidance, Robbie is ready.
And Robbie Gordon is in A.J. Foyt's garage area. Your final thoughts, Robbie. A tumultuous month for you, but now it's down to your first Indy 500.
Well, you know, it gets started here in a few minutes, but, you know, I know the first 400 miles doesn't mean much. It's the last 100 that does, and it's the last lap that means the most. So we got a pretty good game plan. We're going to stick by it and see what happens.
Paul, the crew has faxed in a message to Robbie Gordon from their Houston, Texas place, and it says, race day, be sure to be cool and fast and stand on the gas.
Robbie Gordon, one of those, is ready. 38 minutes to the start of the engines. 26,000 horsepower. The combined power of those 33 will roar to life.
ABC Sports exclusive coverage of the Indianapolis 500. Brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft Light. The cold filtered light with smooth draft taste. MGD Light. Say no more. By A1 Steak Sauce. A1, it's how burgers are done. By the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. And by Goodyear, #1 in tires.
In this massive crowd are many fans hoping that Mario Andretti will score a win today. Mario won from the center of the front row in 1969. Last year, Eddie Cheever was the first driver to finish the 500 miles from that position since Mario's win. We continue our look at the starting field in the 8th row. John Andretti's legacy is racing. His uncle is Mario. His godfather is A.J. Foyt, his car owner. This year, he came to Indy without a ride, test hopping for other drivers. Lately, John has satisfied the need for speed by racing a top fuel dragster in NHRA. Al Unser in the 80 car is the only active four-time winner. He won his first Indy in 1970. Last year, his son added his likeness to the Borg Warner Trophy as the first father-son combination. Tony Bettenhausen is continuing his family's drive in a 93 Penske Chevrolet. But this year, Tony is both an owner and a driver. To the outside of the 7th row is Lynn St. James. This sports car graduate is in the spirit of the American woman number 90. Last year, her spirit and drive helped Lynn add her name as the first woman Rookie of the Year at Indy. Wisconsin's Stan Fox is a top midget driver. Today he starts his 6th Indy 500 in the middle of row 7. Jimmy Vasser began racing Formula 4. This is his 2nd Indy 500. In the 6th row, Gary Bettenhausen continues his search for an Indy 500 win in his 21st race. His close-knit family lives near the Speedway in Monrovia, Indiana. Gary took a scary ride on his first qualifying run. But he came back to qualify 18th and try again. 10 years ago, Teo Fabi was the rookie pole sitter here. Today, the Italian starts after a 2-year absence. Jeff Andretti is starting his 3rd race inside row 6. During last year's Indy 500, a wheel came off of Jeff's car, sending him nearly head-on into the wall. With his father's help, Jeff struggled back with his goal to drive in this year's race.
Well, Jeff Andretti, we just saw that video, the horror that you experienced a year ago. During all the months of the painful recuperation, rehabilitation, did you ever think you'd get another opportunity to challenge this racetrack again?
Well, I wasn't quite sure that I'd get an opportunity, but I was really thankful that the Pagan Racing team thought enough of me to give me another chance to at least show that I could still do it.
Well, we certainly hope that it's a safe one today, but regardless of how it comes out, this is already a great success story. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Let's go to Jack.
Gary, his cousin, Jeff Andretti's cousin, John Andretti, came with an empty fire suit, but now it's filled with all the commiserate patches. But how about the inactivity? You haven't raced an IndyCar for quite some time, John. Are you concerned about the Indy 500 because of that?
No, I think that you get back in, you get back on the horse, and you just ride it again. It's the same sort of thing that I've done for the last few years full time. And so, you know, the equipment's what's so important, and AJ and, you know, the Marmon Group in Copenhagen gave me a great car to drive, so I'm excited about it.
Paul, the toughest thing in this garage right now is the realization that A.J. Foyt will be starting his first Indy 500 as a car owner on the pit side of the wall.
About 35 minutes, Jack. The engines will be commanded into life. Now it's time for our regular feature on what's new in the world of sports, science, and technology.
A look behind the scenes as sports and science converge, brought to you by AT&T. IndyCar drivers must be at their peak both physically and mentally to endure the demands of a 500-mile race. Lynn St. James, last year's Indy 500 Rookie of the Year, can undergo a battery of tests to evaluate her overall driving condition. At Human Performance International, she tests her reaction time, her hand-eye coordination, and the strength of her driving muscles.
85 winner Danny Sullivan walks out toward the pit area now at the Speedway. On the straightaway, the cars are already in position. A final warming of the engine taking place. Danny, so famous for his spin and win. That was the only win ever from the 8th starting spot, the middle of row 3. Today, Danny will start in row 4 as we continue our look at the starting 33. The 5th through 3rd rows hold 2 rookies and 5 World Driving Championships. Rookie Stéphane Grégoire is a French Formula 3 champion. He drives as a part of a project to promote French drivers. This week, he was honored as the fastest rookie in the field at 220.8 miles an hour. Kevin Kogan is back after a 2-year layoff. His road to Indy has been rocky. In 1989, he took a terrifying ride and escaped with only cuts and bruises. In 1986, Kevin was running in the lead with 3 laps left when Bobby Rahal passed and won. Ironically, last Sunday, Rahal tried to bump Kevin out of the field, but failed. Nelson Piquet of Brazil will drive number 77. 3 times he's basked in the glow of a world championship in Formula 1. Last year, his legs were badly broken in a practice crash. But Nelson battled back to start his first Indy 500. Outside the 4th row sits the 1985 winner at Indy, Danny Sullivan. He drives for the Gallus team in number 7. Away from the track, Danny spends his time with his son, Griffin. Scott Brayton, the former track record holder, is in his familiar number 22. Scott collects and restores fine cars, like this Cobra, which is equipped with a Buick Indy engine. Roberto Guerrero will start the 40 car from the inside of row number 4. The pole sitter last year, Roberto spun on cold tires during the pace lap and was eliminated before the start. He and his wife, Katie, have 2 young sons, Marco and Evan. This winter, their first daughter, Haley, was born. 2-time world champion Emerson Fittipaldi is the senior driver for Roger Penske. The Brazilian was the first $1 million winner here in 1989. Socially, Emo prefers the company of his wife, Teresa, and his children. The center of the row finds the reigning world champion, Nigel Mansell, driving for Carl Haas and Paul Newman. Nige made the red number 5 famous in Formula 1. Like most Britishers, he is an avid seaman piloting Lionheart. With help from his best friend, Greg Norman, he is a scratch golfer. But first and foremost, he is a family man who loves a day with the kids at the soccer field. After winning this year's first race in Australia, he crashed hard at Phoenix, requiring surgery. But 2 weeks later, still with stitches in his back, Mansell qualified at Indy, though not as well as he'd hoped. Paul Tracy is driving the 2nd car in Roger Penske's stable. This young Canadian has always wanted to race, and always won it. Now, he has the help of the best teacher available, retired Rick Mears. With that backing, Paul won his first IndyCar race last month at Long Beach.
Well, we mentioned he's in the middle of that 3rd row. Here's Nigel Mansell. Nigel, earlier we were talking about the first today. First time to race on an oval, first time 500 miles, first time 7 pit stops. Are those your primary concerns?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm just trying to sort of detune myself at the moment to save all my energy for when I get in the car. But there's so many things to think of today, and you know, I've just been speaking to Michael in here with Mario, and he's saying he's learning some of the circuits as he's racing. Well, that's exactly what I'll be doing today.
Well, we wish you well. We remember in 1966, your countryman Graham Hill, the last rookie to win at Indianapolis. Have a safe day. Let's go to Jeff.
And Gary, as Emerson Fittipaldi gets ready to make his walk out onto the grid, his wife Teresa on the phone, getting the well wishes of friends. But as a 2-time Formula 1 world champion, a winner of this Indianapolis 500, is it harder or easier now?
Well, I think it's always harder here. I think with the new track configuration, there is a lot of excitement about what's going to happen, how is going to be the behavior of the cars on the draft. You know, we are looking for a good racer. Just talking to Ricky Mears before, I have to be patient today to learn what happened and then go through the race.
And Paul, in typical Fittipaldi fashion, he just woke up from a nap about 5 minutes ago.
That's the way Emerson handles his tension. Eddie Cheever, part of that last day qualifying drama, now walks out onto the grid, a car that he borrowed at the last moment to re-qualify into this 500-mile race field. Now let's go to Jerry Punch.
Nelson Piquet, 3 world championships and 23 Formula One wins over your illustrious career. What motivated you to endure the agony of a comeback?
Well, even being very successful in Formula One, always my dream is to come here and to participate in the 500. And I tried last year hard, and I have this big accent, and after long recuperation, I'm back here, and I'm trying to do well today.
Paul, obviously the Indy is the one jewel missing from Piquet's crown.
Perhaps this will be the day that he adds it. Pole sitter from last year, Roberto Guerrero, his wife Katie joining him, and his walk out through the pit area, now crowded with fans and well-wishers. 9 Formula One champions have driven in the 500 since Alberto Ascari first ran in '52. 4 have won. 7 world championships are in the field today. 26 minutes to go.
It's the 1993 Miller Genuine Draft Pit Stop Competition. The Gallus Racing Pit Crew of Al Unser Jr. and Mario Andretti's Newman Haas Racing Pit Crew were the 2 finalists on the day's last run. 6 men are allowed over the wall to change 4 tires and simulate a refueling hookup. Elapsed time in the pits determine the winner. Problems in Mario Andretti's pit with a right front tire change and a flawless stop for the Gallus Racing Crew with a time of 13.1 seconds won them the championship and a first-place check for $25,000.
Designated as one of America's national landmarks, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum keeps alive the history of the Indianapolis 500. Come visit with us and find out why the 500 is the greatest spectacle in racing.
We're back live at Indianapolis. Paul Tracy, a brand new father. His first child, Alicia, was born Thursday. He missed Carburation Day for the birth of this daughter, the first for he and his wife, Tara. The furthest anyone has started back in the field and won is 28th. No one has won from the last row. A majority of wins, 27, have come from the first 2 rows. Our final look at the starting field takes in the first and second row. In row 2, a veteran, a rookie, and a champion. The rookie is ex-Formula One driver Stefan Johansson. This handsome single Swede is also an artist. He designs a beautiful set of signature watches. In the center of row 2 is the defending champion, Al Unser Jr. In 1989, while battling Emerson Fittipaldi in the final laps, he hit the wall. Now, at his Albuquerque, New Mexico home, that section of the Indy wall has a prominent place, complete with Al's marks. Last year, he won the closest finish in Indy history to become the first second-generation winner. Already, there is a third racing generation. They call him Mini Al, and with the guidance of his dad and granddad, he's getting ready to race. Inside the second row is the other player in last year's record finish, Scott Goodyear, driving for Derek Walker. He didn't go in for Canada's favorite sport of hockey, but in his garage, he still tried. In the first row, 2 former winners and a hungry veteran. Outside is Raul Boisel of Brazil, driving for Dick Simon. Like his 2 brothers, he started as a show horse jumper, but preferred the louder life of motor racing. In the center of the front row is Mario Andretti, at age 53, starting his 28th Indy. Who would have guessed that the little Italian boy would grow up to win in 1969? Now, that 24-year-old race car is a museum piece, but Mario just keeps on racing. Arie Luyendyk is the pole sitter, driving for Chip Ganassi. Arie's only IndyCar win came here in 1990. This is his first career pole position. A man of style and grace, he owns an art gallery that focuses on racing in downtown Indianapolis. He and his wife, Mika, have 2 children, but the family is soon to double. Mika is expecting twins.
In the middle of that important front row, Mario Andretti, you've been the fastest man this month. You're one of the favorites. As a man who's had more than your share of tough luck, does that favorites role create a special pressure?
Oh, no, we like that. That's the kind of pressure we're looking for, and we just hope that everything just works for us as usual, and we're ready to go.
Well, in years past, of course, his son Michael had been his teammate. Now he runs in the Formula One circuit. How much do you miss not being in this race for the first time in 10 years?
Well, definitely being here, you miss it, you know. You just feel like I should be suited like him and ready to go, but it's just a strange feeling, but we're just going to be here cheering him on.
Family Andretti, ready to go for it, Paul.
The Andrettis not driving together this year. Roa Boisel came here as a rookie in '85, driving for Dick Simon, then an owner and a driver. Now he's back, and he has his finest opportunity to score. He starts on the outside of the front row. Here's Jack.
Ari Luyendyk making his way out to his car. Ari, you've had a chance to talk to your fellow front row people. What was the discussion like?
Caution. We got to take caution because obviously we're getting into a narrower corner than we did last year. So, you know, the race is never won on the first lap, and we all realize that.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Ari Luyendyk, the pole sitter. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Paul, with the altered configuration of the track, a lot of concern about the start of the race. We're with the defending winner, Al Unser Jr. And Al, your thoughts?
Well, I think it'll be a little bit crowded in turn one, and as long as everybody uses their head and realizes that it's 500 miles and not just turn one, then everybody will be okay and we'll make it through.
Paul, cautious optimism here in the Gallus garage.
Scott Goodyear, second in last year's race, begins his long walk out toward his team. This is his fourth Indianapolis 500. He's been an instructor. He's instructed such people as Paul Tracy.
A duel between two champions sets the stage for horse racing's toughest test.
But before it's post time in New York, it's tea time in Ohio.
Join Jack Nicklaus for one of golf's premier events, the Memorial Tournament, sponsored by Dean Ritter. Then the final jewel of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge follows. It's the Belmont Stakes, all live Saturday on ABC Sports.
Back live at Indianapolis, the cars are assembled on the straightaway. Stefan Johansson started in the IndyCars at Detroit last year, where he finished third. Today he starts sixth, ahead of all other rookies. You know, this track changes over the years from bricks to asphalt. The walls have changed several times, but this year has seen a rather massive change. Sam Posey now reports.
A line chalked in the dirt almost 90 years ago, the basic form of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It is still the same today. While around the track, much has changed, and this year, the changes are particularly significant. For safety, the turns have been narrowed to slow the cars, and a warm-up lane has been added. The golf course is being rebuilt to designs by the celebrated Pete Dye. With this 18-hole championship course, called the Brickyard Crossing, the Speedway will soon be hosting the greats of golf, as well as racing. On the track, the turns have been narrowed by replacing the innermost lane with grass. A separate lane has been created for cars warming up as well as going in and out of the pits. Rumble strips discourage shortcuts, while a new steel-reinforced outer wall anticipates next year's exciting debut of the NASCAR Stockers. The catch fencing is higher and stronger. Last year, drivers straightened out the turns by crossing the white line into the warm-up lane. This year, there is no crossing the line because there's no pavement beyond it, only the rumble strips and grass. The turns are no longer taken flat out. Passing is much tougher. As for the start, this is what it looked like last year. 3 cars abreast, a scene unlikely to be repeated in today's race because there just won't be enough room. With me is 4-time Indy winner Rick Mears, who of course retired at the end of last year. You recognize him with that beard? Rick, all the talk, of course, is about what's going to happen when this field funnels down into this narrower turn one. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, you know, it's hard to predict what's going to happen, but I really think that it's on all the drivers' minds. I think they're very, very aware of it and very aware that they're going to have to funnel in. You know, I think you might get a bit of an accordion effect more so than in the past. But I think, again, the drivers are very aware of it and they're going to use their head.
When the race gets underway, a few laps into it, how tough is it going to be to pass?
It's going to be tough to pass a car running close to the same speed you are, but I think for some of the lap cars, the slower traffic, it may even make it easier to pass, where you'll be able to set them up. You're going to see more of a timing-type passing rather than just trying to pass through the corner.
Rick, I know a lot of the fans are going to miss seeing you out there on the track this year. Do you have any regrets? It's just 25 minutes to go now to the start. What are your feelings?
No regrets whatsoever. I mean, I'm really having fun with it this morning. I think I'm just about as nervous as if I was in the car, but you know, we're looking for a good day. I want to, you know, if there's any help that I can do to try to bring home a win, that's what I want to try to do. But I'm enjoying this new role.
Well, Paul, we know we're going to miss him.
Another change this year is Bobby Unser's position. He is high over turn 2 in the corporate suites.
Well, Paul, we're in the Hallman Suite, high above the track in turn 2, approximately 3/4 of a mile from where you are. Now, the weather and the wind conditions are often quite different over here, and the race cars go by right in front of us, no more than 75 feet from where I'm standing. The pit lane exit, which is 2 lanes wide, is also right in front of us. Now, it's okay to pass between the exit of the pits and entering the track, but remember, the rules say they must be single file when they actually enter the racetrack or face a penalty. Now, during practice and qualifying, most of the action and the excitement happen right here in turn 2. So, between the weather, the racing, and the cars leaving the pits, our new position here in turn 2 could be the most exciting place to be.
6 of the 15 crashes in practice this year have occurred in or entering turn 2. We'll keep an eye on it. The crowd is moving toward their seats. Back live at Indianapolis, covering the race today is the Goodyear Blimp Spirit from Akron, Ohio. This is the 25th year that a Goodyear blimp has carried a TV camera over Indy, and she floats over the track right now. Well, here in the pit area at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I'm with Bobby Rahal, the defending PPG Cup champion. And Bobby, your emotions just must be running awry today as you stand here watching your colleagues move toward their cars.
Yeah, it's I feel pretty strange. I'm not sure what I feel, but I feel strange. And I guess if there's anything that really strikes me is I'm not ready to be down here.
What are your plans now for the remainder of the season?
Well, as you know, we bought 2 new Lolas, so we'll have those in Milwaukee. I mean, we can still win the championship, and that's what we're going to, commit ourselves to for the Miller people and everybody on our team. And, we're going to continue to, I think, explore the concept of doing our own chassis, and we'll go from there. But we'll be running Lolas the rest of the year.
Well, Bobby Rahal, we wish you were in a race car here today. It's good of you to come by and spend some time with us. He's not the only one. There are some others missing in action today. Mears, Foyt, Michael Andretti. Look what they account for in this field. Amazing record of those who are not here today, but a new record will be written. 6 times a rookie has won here at Indianapolis. There are 5 in the field today as Paul Tracy now begins to get ready. 14 times the race has been won from the pole, the most of any starting position. The drivers already beginning to suit up to move toward their cars. The formal ceremonies are now just seconds away, leading up to the start of the engines. Let's join the public address system here and its chief announcer, Tom Carnegie.
Nationally famous Florence Henderson with the Purdue University All-American Band and our national anthem.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in and gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave for the land of the free and the home of the
With a roar from the crowd, the formal ceremonies leading to the engine start are now underway. We'll return with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please remain standing for a moment? We ask your silence for a moment. On this Memorial Day weekend, we pause here in a moment of silence to pay homage to those individuals who have given their lives unselfishly and unafraid to make it possible for us to witness as free men and women the world's greatest sporting event. We also pay homage to those men and women who have given their lives unselfishly and without fear to make racing the world's most spectacular spectator sport.
Race fans, this day is all about magical moments. And here is a magical moment. Back home again in Indiana, our dear friend, Mr. Jim Neighbors. Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new morn
back home again in Indiana as the traditional balloons are released from the starting line. The flyover was by F-16 jets from Terre Haute, Indiana. We'll move now our public address microphone to the front of the line, where Jim Philippi will be standing by for the magic moment for the start.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at that time of the day for the command that will start the 77th running of this event. Here to give the traditional words is Chairman Emeritus of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Board, Mrs. Mary Fendrick Hallman.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
There it is, the traditional.
Representative of the engine start, he roars out a challenge now. The drivers anxiously watch their dash displays. Any sign of trouble will crop up there first. They're was some concern for Lynn St. James' engine. The team had asked to take the car off the grounds and test it, but that is not allowed. And so we watch up and down the line to make sure all of the engines are started. 33 cars are ready to be led by the pole sitter, Arie Luyendyk, who nods the affirmative that he is okay. Nelson Piquet, three-time world champion, stares straight ahead, contemplating the day. Japan's Hiro Matsushita. A tremendous field of competitors, 11 rows of 3, ready to roll toward the green. Each row now, the Chiefs will hold their hands in the air, indicating that their car is started and ready to go racing. What a remarkable story. J for Jeff Andretti on his helmet. And with Jim Perkins, the general manager of Chevrolet Motor Division, at the wheel, and Stuart Richcoy as the marshal, the Camaro Z28 pace car is leading those machines out. Let's go to Gary.
Paul, the moment's finally here. We wait all year long. The crews, all the countless hours, ready to finally get it going. The scramble now, off the grid, onto pit road. Dick Simon, 5 cars in this race. Boy, Selden, the front row. Is this your best chance ever to win at Indy?
Yes, Gary, the emotion is so high. It's all I can do to keep from crying. Diane and I feel that this is the, our best year ever. I just don't know what to say. I'm so happy that the crowd and everybody is here, our sponsors. And I just hope the fans out there have a good race today as well.
24 years for Dick Simon. What a moment. Jack?
Gary Gerald, 35 straight years when they gave the command. This man, A.J. Foyt, was in the cockpit. Today, you're behind the wall. Your thoughts?
Well, it's like a nightmare, to be honest with you, Jack. It's hard. Very hard.
Paul, he's making his way. He will call the shots on both John Andretti and Robbie Gordon, the rookie.
And how strange to see A.J. Foyt afoot at this time. You ride now with Scott Goodyear. He finished second last year. The field forms up looking for their familiar 11 rows of 3. In the Bettenhausen car, Gary, everything is settling down, and he is ready to go racing. Ahead, it's $1 million purse after 200 laps of the 2.5-mile oval. They're shooting for Arie Luyendyk's race record. Pit stops will be the key in the outcome of today's run, but perhaps the weather will affect it as well. The crews are watching the skies, and there are predicted showers later in the day, perhaps before the end of the race. There are some pretty sophisticated systems in use by the crew chiefs to watch the weather, everything from airplanes to a phone call from a house out to the west of the track. Now, there's a new twist in the pit rule speed limit this year. Here's Jack Arute.
Paul, for the second time in 2 years, there will be a 100-mile-an-hour speed limit on pit road in green and caution. Starting at the entrance to pit road and all the way down, there will be radar guns and display boards. If you violate the 100-mile-an-hour limit, you will be penalized. But they won't measure it by the radar guns. They'll use the onboard transmitter that does the scoring. They say the severity of the violation will determine the severity of the penalty. We'll have to wait and see.
The IndyCar rules are designed to limit some technology in favor of the driver input. As you look over Danny Sullivan's right shoulder in a live onboard camera shot. Here are the chassis rules. The engines are 161 cubic inches enhanced by a single turbocharger. And of the chassis in the field today, well, the Lolas dominate. They are customer cars. The Penske's and the Galmer are limited edition specials. And with 3 basic engine designs dominating the race, the V8 Chevys, the Fords, and the V6 Buicks, or their later models, the Menard. You're looking at one of our 6 onboard camera shots as Danny Sullivan works his way across the start-finish line and down toward turn 1. These are the onboard cameras that we have today that will help you keep track of the 77th running of the Indianapolis 500. And we also have 3 cameras on board the pace car itself. That Camaro Z28, it's driven by Jim Perkins. As the field comes even closer into formation, he wears a special noise feedback headset so he can hear the commands of Chief Steward Tom Binford on the radio above the roar of the pack behind him. As suggested, the pit stops may play a key role today. For a further update, here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, as we've heard, the drivers almost to a man say it's going to be as tough to pass today as it's been in recent years at Indianapolis. So consequently, more emphasis than ever on pit stops. Every team expects to make at least 7 stops for 500 miles. And keep in mind, if you can save 2 seconds down here, you're going to save at least a couple of hundred yards out there in the racetrack. This is the Gallus crew. They serve Al Unser Jr. They won the pit stop competition earlier this week. They're pumped, primed, psyched, ready to go, Paul.
Because of the importance of those pit stop placements, some teams have even hired tacticians. Here's Jerry Punt.
Exactly, Paul. The average IndyCar race about 200 miles and typically 2 pit stops. As Gary just told you, you can expect that to escalate to 7 or more today. That's why many teams like Tony Bettenhausen's have hired race day tacticians. That's Steve Horn you're looking at there, the man back in 1986 who made the calls for Bobby Rahal and True Sports Racing when they won it all. Paul?
Steve Horn watches down the track. There are, in this race today, 6 former winners, accounting for 9 different wins. Al Unser Sr. is the all-time lap leader with 629 leading laps. He is also a 4-time winner and the oldest driver in the field. Yesterday, he turned 54. The youngest rookie in the field is Stefan Gregoire, who turned 24 2 weeks ago. The oldest rookie, Nelson Piquet, who is 40. And now, let's take a last look at the starting field of 33 cars ready for the Indianapolis 500 as the pace lap is now underway. All of these drivers agree that the first laps are critical. It is often debated as to whether to start on the inside or the outside of the front row and which makes for a better start. As the green unfurls, counting today's rookies, 601 drivers will have answered the Brickyard's challenge in 77 races. And for the first time, the Speedway has an honorary starter to wave the green flag. The Speedway president, Tony George, has asked Nick Finoro, a former racer and a starter for all other IndyCar events for the past decade, to help send them on their way. This has been Nicky's lifelong dream. We wish him luck here today. So they come off the second turn on the pace lap and will soon fall into their familiar rows of 3, paced by Arie Luyendyk. You look at the front row, Mario Andretti to the center. To the far left is Raul Boesel. A moment now to begin to anticipate the start of this race. They have been cautioned to be so very careful. In the north end of the track now, the northeast corner. The field coming into nice alignment in the front rows. With Al Unser Jr. Some stragglers toward the back, but the rest of the field comes off the 4th and final turn. The pace car is already rolling on the pit road. The cars now begin to accelerate. They look for the green flag. And the Indianapolis 500 with a swirl of green is underway for the 77th time as Raul Boesel sweeps to the outside around Arie Luyendyk and picks up the lead. Aerial bombs fire overhead, announcing the start of the race. Carefully, the rest of the field picks their way through the second corner and onto the long backstretch. Boesel continues to accelerate and pulls away from Luyendyk. Running to the completion of the first lap now. Raul Boesel heading onto the home stretch. Chased by Luyendyk. And Raul Boesel will lead the first lap of the Indianapolis 500. Then Luyendyk. Then Mario. Luyendyk runs in second place. Mario Andretti third. Al Unser Jr. crossed the line in 4th, followed by Scott Goodyear, Stefan Johansson, Emerson Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, and Nigel Mansell runs in 9th. They have been careful on this start. The chief steward, Tom Binford, asked them to be very careful. They have been so. We expect the pace to pick up as they begin to string out. Single file, there's the defending champion. He is in 4th place. Scott Goodyear, the man who battled against Al Unser Jr. last year. Raul cracked that first lap off at 201.14 miles an hour. Boisel has thrown down the gauntlet. He is ready to lead and, if possible, win the Indianapolis 500-mile race. The rest of the field flashes across the line now. The fight is for second place. Arie Luyendyk having to deal with Mario Andretti. Three laps into the record book, and the pace picks up. Boisel is now charging at 213.5 miles an hour. To this moment, he is the fastest car in the field as we take a look at a fight between Emerson Fittipaldi in the 4 car and his teammate Paul Tracy. It is a battle for 9th and 10th.
The two Penske cars are a study in contrast. Emerson Fittipaldi, the veteran, Paul Tracy, the rookie. Both took it carefully at the start. They will not be dicing with each other for position yet with the idea of beating the other man. Still, it's in the early stages of the race. Caution and careful thoughts reign.
Now that battle on the backstretch. They just flashed past Bobby Unser. Bobby, a nice clean start. They really behaved.
Well, they certainly did, Paul, and one of the things that I noticed was how careful everybody, and I mean that literally, everybody was at the start. But after about 2 or 3 laps, we watched a little bit of dust quit rising out of the track. They're on it now. Boisel, of course, is pulling away just a little bit, but believe me, they're hurrying.
Al Unser Jr. runs in 4th. He is chased by Scott Goodyear. Shades of last year's Indianapolis 500.
Both Goodyear and Little Al are men that start slowly and come on strong, and it's an ominous note for the opposition that Little Al is running as well as he is this early in the race. At this point last year, he was back in 10th, and Goodyear was making his way up from dead last.
So the Indianapolis 500 is underway. Raul Boisel just cracked the fastest lap of the race at 214.18 miles an hour. So in lap number 5, Raul Boisel is leading the Indianapolis 500, the second time in his career. We'll be back.
Defending champ Pat Bradley, Dottie Mockery, Betsy King, and Nancy Lopez play the final 9 holes of the JCPenney LPGA Skins game today on ABC.
Back live at the Indianapolis 500, I'm Paul Page. We watch a battle for 4th between the defending champion Al Unser Jr. and his nemesis of last year, Scott Goodyear. They have been closing on the track. Last lap speed on the Valvoline speed chart as we keep track of this race. The view backwards from Al Unser Jr. Fastest lap thus far at 214.184 miles an hour.
Eerie similarity to the last year. What, of course, is different is that the track is so substantially changed, that the turns are narrower. You see the grass there on the inside where there used to be an apron. The question was, would that make the start more dangerous? Everyone funneling into turn 1 with nowhere to go. Well, everybody was careful, and it's worked out. The question now is, can you pass on this track, reconfigured as it is? So far, we've seen them strung out. The atmosphere has been more like a no-hitter going in baseball. No real action per se. But I think this tension, and it's the question of these drivers getting the feel of the track, we're going to start to see passes soon, and it may be between these two drivers.
Well, Sam and Paul, as I watch the track, it's getting a little bit slippery as typical. Early in the race, the guys lose a little bit of fuel because they have everything fuel or fluid, period, they have everything full. And so it gets a little bit slippery. And that's the reason everybody's being a little bit careful. Remember, the groove is narrow this year because they're all having to run on the racetrack.
And Mario Andretti has just managed to move around Arie Luyendyk and into second place as they are already overcoming slower cars in the field. Mario using those cars to his advantage and moves now to second. Fastest lap in the race, still 214 miles an hour.
They say there are old drivers and bold drivers, but no old, bold drivers. Mario at 53, I would say, qualifies as both.
You got a glimpse at the Valvoline driver's summary. We'll be seeing that throughout the day.
The enormous crowd here. So far, the weather excellent, but everyone has been looking at the radar screens that are scattered through the garage areas. There's a front passing, has already come into Indiana and is passing across the northern part of the state. Whether we catch a corner of that or not may very well determine how this race comes out.
You can see, too, that Scott Goodyear has moved around Al Unser Jr. And now take a look at Emerson Fittipaldi as he comes around Johansson, takes advantage of a fight between those two, and now sets his sights on Al Unser Jr. If there is a question about where they will pass, they've already begun to figure it out.
But that pass was on Stefan Johansson, an experienced Formula One driver, but a rookie here at the Speedway. I think he was very careful. Here comes Emerson again now on Little Al, and he sweeps by Little Al. So Emerson is on the move, and he is the first man to prove that you can pass if you've got your act together here.
Fittipaldi, very definitely on the fly, has moved up 2 positions in a single lap. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we're beginning to see the reports of the cars getting very, very loose. That means the tail wants to swap ends with the nose. That's the case with Scott Goodyear, and now with Al Unser Jr. as well. The heat taking its toll in the early going for the chassis combinations.
We keep an eye on this battle now as you're watching the reigning world champion, Nigel Mansell, as he moves underneath Paul Tracy, and he comes forward in the field. Mansell now moving up into 9th place. This battle at the tail end of the top 10. Raul Boesel continues to lead. Now Tracy trying to set up on Nigel Mansell.
And remember, Mansell, as you see him being repassed there by Tracy, has never run on an oval before. He crashed before running at Phoenix. He's also never run in a race more than 200 miles long, so he's got a lot of things to learn today.
Paul Tracy now looks for room right behind Al Unser Jr. as he moved around Mansell. They head down into the first turn as Mansell signals to his board operator, and they turn toward Bobby Unser.
Well, Paul is still the same.
Yellow light, the yellow flag. And a car spun on the backstretch, but managed to keep it going.
It's Jim Crawford, I believe, of the Kenny Bernstein team. Crawford, who, of course, has had such an up-and-down career
60 car, right.
here. But luckily, he has not hit anything, although you see some smoke coming out of the back now.
Everything looks good over here, Paul and Sam. The only thing is the track is very slippy right now, and everybody seems to be a little bit loose.
So with 15 laps into the 77th running of the Indianapolis 500, Raul Boesel leads, and we are under our first yellow. No contact with the wall, though.
ABC Sports exclusive coverage of the Indianapolis 500. Brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. By Goodyear, #1 in tires. By Valvoline, people who know use Valvoline. And by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold.
Back live at Indianapolis under yellow. The reason for the yellow, a spin by Jim Crawford. Bobby Unser, it happened right in front of you.
Yes, and you can see, Paul, as they came off over here, they've been loose, as I mentioned to you. Jim Crawford's rear end was just loose. They've lost a lot of fluids in the cars, and the track is just slippery as you come off here. Now we can watch him in slow motion. He's coming through there. There he is, second car from the back. There you can see the rear end just slowly came around. Now, if you're going to have a spin, you couldn't have a better one than that. Now here's a replay in slow motion. Watch him, second car from the right there. There's Jim Crawford. He was below the groove, which means that he was running low because it's a little bit loose. See, all the smoke comes around, it anchors itself, the front end comes back around. Now let's go to Jack Arute. He has a report on the leader.
No, I don't.
No. Let's go instead to Jerry Punch.
Jim Crawford came in minutes ago, and take a look at the tires that came off his car. When he spun here, the right front tire and the left front tire both eaten away at 200 miles an hour. That's what's left of the tires. Crawford, by the way, has no radio communications with his crew. Let's check in with Jack Arute.
Well, Gary, the leader, Raul Boesel, came in, and it was a lucky yellow because they pulled this out of the radiator area, and you know what in the heat this could do. But Dick Simon, there is some talk that Mario Andretti is complaining that maybe Raul passed him on pit road. What's the situation?
That is legal as long as he doesn't exceed 100 miles an hour. In the pits, it is still the same as the race course. And when Mario was slowing down for his pits, he should be able to pass him.
There you have it, Paul.
Dick Simon, first time a Dick Simon-owned car has ever led at Indy when Raul took the lead there. ABC's Wild Thing Weekend continues tonight when Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Kline star in A Fish Called Wanda. And then tomorrow night, African Beasts go wild in The Race for Life, and John Belushi goes wild in Animal House. That's all tomorrow here on ABC. Well, Kevin Cogan will lead the pack around as the leader of the race. He did not go into the pits, one of very few that did. For an update on Al Unser Jr., here's Gary Gerald.
Taking advantage of the yellow, the Unser crew came in, changed tires, added fuel. They took 2 full turns on the front wing. He was complaining, as Jack mentioned earlier, that it was loose. They've hopefully addressed that. Both Penske cars and adjacent pits, Fittipaldi and Tracy in, everything routine for them, Paul.
Kevin Cogan, Al Unser, John Andretti, and Robbie Gordon have not come into the pits. Dominic Dobson just has. So already the tactics of this day are beginning to play, and Sam the Cloud has been clouding up the sky just a little bit.
Yes, the rules are that the race must go half distance, which is 100 laps, plus 1 lap. There's Kevin Cogan, before it can be an official race. It can, of course, be restarted if the officials, led by Tom Binford, think that the track will dry out before the end of the day. But that's all conjecture right now. We've got a race on our hands.
Well, so far, I can see from turn 2, Sam and Paul, a long way to the west, and we don't have any rain in sight. I realize it's getting a little cloudy, but they're not rain clouds yet.
It's extraordinary to see Kevin Cogan back in the field at all, much less leading the race after his horrific crash 2 years ago and his very difficult rehabilitation period. A lot of pain suffered by this man. Great determination as shown by Kevin Cogan to be back in the field.
Green to the front row is green to the field, and already there is a battle underway at the front as Kevin Cogan leads them down. Al Unser now, he runs in second place. His car very similar to Crawford's and Guerrero's. You'll be able to tell it by the blue nose wings on the car. There's Raul Boisel as he now tries to work his way through the field. Mario Andretti sits just in front of him. They're actually in 4th place, battling for 4th right now.
And the car they're passing there, you see Mario go underneath John Andretti in the black A.J. Foyt car.
Kevin Cogan still at the front, being chased by Al Unser.
Most of the guys have probably made adjustments to their wings. We couldn't see them all when they came in, Paul and Sam, but they've made adjustments to them, and so far right now, just one time, they look a little better through here.
Mario Andretti got around John. Very shortly, Raul will try to make the same move. Stefan Gregoire, they're just ahead of Scott Goodyear.
Gregoire is in that very brightly colored car, a rookie from France.
The leader of the race, Kevin Cogan, with Al Unser just behind him.
One can only think back to 1986 when Kevin Cogan so nearly had this race won with just a few laps left to go. Arie Luyendyk hit the end of the pit wall, brought out a yellow, and on the restart, Bobby Rahal, who isn't even in the race today, outstarted Kevin Cogan. Cogan finished second. He's always thought to himself, this is a race I can win. I believe he can.
This is the first time that Cogan has led since his near miss at a victory, giving it up to Bobby Rahal in 1986.
The extraordinary thing is it's the first time Kevin Cogan has really been in a race car for 2 years. Look at this.
And there is a pass for the lead as, boy, look at that, as Big Al ducks underneath Kevin Cogan. And did he get around him quick? We suggested at starting that part of the way you're going to do this is slowing down a little bit on the approach to the corner and slingshot. And Bobby Unser looks like what they did there.
Well, they certainly are, Paul. You're gonna watch as the race goes on that the strategies are really going to come out of passing, and we're going to see some ingenious passing from one time to the other.
And Raul Boisel on the pit road. No indication as to what this stop may be for. He refueled during the yellow flag.
This could not be a planned stop. A stop and go. It's an assessed penalty, it looks like.
Now they ran him in and out quickly. Appeared to check something, and you saw a little puff of wheel smoke as he came out the
I think that was serving the penalty that he might have incurred passing illegally as he left the pits. I think that was our story.
That is the confirmation as we watch Al Unser.
Al Unser, of course, a 4-time winner, the only active 4-time winner now in business. A.J. Foyt having retired earlier this month, and of course, Rick Mears retiring at the end of last year. This is the man, the only man alive right now that could win 5 Indianapolises. Of course, he finished a brilliant third here last year.
Paul, I think that one of the most amazing things that I'm seeing right now is the speed that Big Al is doing. If you notice that Kogan's behind him, but right behind Kogan is Mario Andretti. Now, Big Al was running back around 18th. Now he's able to lead the race.
Big Al's been running laps at 211 miles an hour.
Whereas Bosell had been able to crank out laps at 214.
Valvoline driver summary on Al Unser, the senior Unser. Bobby, does he have a specific game plan? Has he shared it with you?
Paul, I don't think he does. In fact, these new mechanics he's never worked with before, and I think it's just all new to him, and they're just figured it out last night.
And this is a look back. This is why the penalty was assessed on Raul Boisel. He roars out of the pits.
Here it comes. He's going to pass Mario Andretti there. That's Mario on the inside. Jack Arute with Dick Simon.
Dick, you actually passed on pit road. Now, your position is that's legal as long as it's under 100 miles an hour?
Yes, because they made a 100-mile-an-hour speed limit in the pits, and you have cars speeding up and slowing down. And when you enter the pits, it's awful hard for the driver to tell which car is which. Some are slowing down for their pit, some are speeding up, leaving their pit. Raul came in, and when you're in the pits, he doesn't know where Mario's stopping, and Mario's going to stop at wherever his pit is. If Mario's pit's at the other end, does that mean he has to stop with Mario and then go on down the pit? I cannot believe the call.
Well, of course, what they're really looking at is the exit of the pits. There is a line there, and beyond which, under yellow, you're back in the racetrack and therefore not able to pass.
Big Al moving up on Hiro Matsushita here, the only Japanese driver in the race.
Al Unser still in front, keeping an eye on Paul Tracy, who runs in 10th place.
Remember that Big Al has not made a pit stop. That's a factor here in considering his lead. There are others behind.
Sam and Paul, I think we can kind of get an idea by little Al. They took 2 turns out of his front wing. This is generally probably what happened to all the cars. What that means is that the cars were loose in the rear, or they were oversteering going in. And that's probably made a whole bunch of them a lot better right now.
Keeping an eye on Paul Tracy, closing in on the number 3 car. And the indication is now that there will be another penalty assessed very shortly on rookie Stefan Gregoire.
That is also a Dick Simon-owned car, incidentally, so lightning seems to be striking the 5-car Simon stable, at least early in the game.
28 laps are now complete. Paul Tracy, a brand new father, missed the final practice day on Thursday because of the birth of his daughter. Now in this race, doing everything he can to play catch-up as Nigel Mansell just moved around him. Let's go to the pits and get this update from Jerry Punch.
We're with Brian Barnhart, the crew chief for Al Unser Sr. And Brian, you made the call not to pit. Why?
We wanted to try and get a little bit ahead of everybody on track position, take a gamble early in the race and see if it's going to pay off for us or not. Starting in the back, we had to work our way up through the field. It looks like we can only go about another 2 laps. So
pit stops in 2 laps for the leader, guys.
You know, I have to think that that's going to be a bad decision. I sat with little Al last night. We talked about this for a long time. And unfortunately, it's something early in the race that you don't want to do, is have to pit under the green when everybody else is pitting under the yellow.
So we watch for a stop. Should come on the 32nd lap for Al Unser. Kevin Kogan, who has not stopped, if they follow a good strategy, should come in right behind him. The yellow is out again.
Well, that's a break for Al Unser Sr. Just the kind of thing that makes Stanley Sullivan has ripped the right front off of his car. What a break for Big Al and the couple of other guys that, including Kevin Kogan, did not pit earlier. They'll now be able to pit under the yellow.
Sam, this shows that racing is a little bit of a gamble in some ways, isn't it? So Big Al has certainly gained from this one.
Yep, not an inexperienced driver. Danny seems, of course, to be perfectly all right. This is the winner of the 1985 race, out of it right now.
So Danny climbs out of his car, obviously all right. We are under the second yellow of the day after Danny Sullivan bounces off the wall. We'll return with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station. Two laps are complete at the Indianapolis 500. We are under our second yellow of the day, the yellow for Danny Sullivan, who has been in his 5th crash in 11 Indy 500s. He is okay, but Bobby Unser, this could be the definition of push, huh?
Well, Paul, this one, as we look at it, we'll have it up in just a moment here, but it looks very similar to the wreck that we had with Danny several years back. Look at that, the car right there, the blue one. Now we'll do it another time, and you watch, it just turns loose and goes out to the wall. Here's regular speed again from IndyCar. Now you watch him. Watch his hands on the steering wheel. Now, Danny, the thing's really strange. We know that the front end just let go, probably from track conditions changing, oil, water on the track, and etc. But the strangest thing, there he is to the right, coming out, and you can see once he hits the gray stuff, it just lifts, it goes to the right. But he never turned the wheel farther, trying to get the car back on the racetrack. So it looks very similar to one they did before. Here's the changes in the track. You can see right front tire hits the gray in the racetrack, goes right on out. You can see the magnesium right front wheel hit the wall, the fire come off of it. Thank God there's not much wrong with it other than a bent right front.
Almost a replay of Danny's accident in 1988. Well, under the yellow, Mario Andretti has picked up the lead. We will continue under the yellow for several moments, and we'll be back.
ABC Sports exclusive coverage of the Indianapolis 500. Brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. By the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. By cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. And by Craftsman, a line of 1,600 hand tools made in America, guaranteed forever.
Back live at Indianapolis, you ride with Nigel Mansell, but let's go to Gary Gerald.
Ed Nathman calling the shots for Danny Sullivan. You had word with him. What was the problem, Ed?
Well, from the very beginning, we had a pretty good push in the car. In that first pit stop, we tried to cure it with some wing and new tires, but just wasn't enough. When he got behind cars in traffic, the front end would just go away on him, and he was trying to pass Johansson, I believe, at the time, and the front end just gave up, and he went into the wall.
All right, we're sorry you're out of the race. We'll see you at Milwaukee next week.
Coming up later today on ABC Sports, it's one of golf's most entertaining events. Hall of Famers Nancy Lopez and Pat Bradley will join the LPGA champ Betsy King for the final 9 holes of the J.C. Penney LPGA Skins game. That's today at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific here on ABC Sports. So from racing to golf this afternoon, we should be another lap before they come to the green flag as you look through the running order.
The remarkable Mario Andretti in the lead for the 11th time in the 28 years that he's run here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
So Danny Sullivan has now failed to finish in 8 of 11 Indy 500 races. And Mario Andretti is the leader. He is now led in his 11th Indy 500. Here's Jack Arute.
Paul, when a race car gets loose, you have to make a change. You look to the rear wing. That's the case with Scott Goodyear. They made 2 stops to change this. It's called a wicker bill. Now, this is slid in the rear wing. It creates more downforce. And with the track consistency the way it is, they are having problems. This is the way teams are going to try and make the change. The reason they had to come in twice, there are so many radio antennas here on race day. Every team is having problems understanding and being able to communicate with each of their drivers. There's a lot of radio interference today.
Jack, the amazing thing is those stops by Scott Goodyear did not keep him off the lead lap. That's how quickly they were able to change that wicker bill.
They can do it in approximately 5 seconds, but remember, they had to do it in 2 stops because they didn't get it done the first time.
Take a look at this. Former winners of the race and where they run. Andretti, Leyendyke, and Fittipaldi, 1, 2, 3. Big Al is now led in his 11th 500. Al Unser Jr., the defending champion, is 8th.
This illustrates a point as you see Mario Andretti here in his Ford-powered Lola that we were talking about earlier, which is how much experience might come into play in this reconfigured track. There's less room to run in the turns, as we've said, and you have to have more experience than before reading the groove, the part of the track that really works for you. All these previous winners have been around racing a long time, and they know what they're doing out there.
Nigel Mansell answers Dwayne Sweeney's green flag. You saw him start to pick up the pace, but at the front of the field, that's Mario Andretti leading Ari Luyendyk and Emerson Fittipaldi. They run 1, 2, and 3.
This will be an interesting comparison. The first two cars here are Ford-powered, and of course Fittipaldi has a Chevrolet. Chevrolets have won the last 5 Indianapolises, but Ford has been looking strong. You see, outmoved by Luyendyk, Paul.
Luyendyk looking for room, goes very, very high on the track. Mario holds him off. Perhaps Ari's move held him off.
Now
you look out the back of Mario Andretti's car, Bobby.
Now this is where we knew it was going to be a difference. Mario blocked Luyendyk on the left. There is no apron to run on this year. There's only grass down there. So Luyendyk was going to try it on the outside. Mario almost squeezed him in the wall. That gives you an idea on how much strategy is going to go into the passing. But that was kind of what we call blocking right there, Paul.
Battle at the front of the field as Mario Andretti is holding off Ari Luyendyk. In third place is Emerson Fittipaldi. 1, 2, 3 on the backstretch.
Paul, there's another thing we want to keep in mind of. The team is split up in pit stops. About half of the cars are pitting at one particular time, and about half the cars are pitting another. It's 2 game strategies that have already been divided up early in the race. So we'll have to watch, and that'll be the reason why that we'll go on in the race and find that they don't all pit together.
Well, the first 5 cars all pitted on the 16th lap under the yellow. Al Unser, who is the 6th car, along with Junior, pitted on the 39th lap under yellow. Nelson Piquet, the 77 car, into the pits. It's unscheduled.
This is the 3-time world champion who had such a savage accident here last year, breaking both of his legs. A year spent in rehabilitation. Does this sound like the Kevin Kogan story all over again? The same kind of thing? Obviously, this is a terminal problem.
Piquet immediately gestured to a team member to come over and help me out of the car, removed the steering wheel, and started to climb out. So now Nelson Piquet apparently joins Danny Sullivan out of the race. The only 2 cars out thus far.
Paul Tracy keeping the pressure on.
Let's also keep in mind, Paul and Sam, the drafting is a very important thing. As we saw this last restart with right here, Mario, Emo, and Luyendyk, that the driving is very important, and they were really moving back and forth across the straightaway. Now, we're going to see a whole bunch of that as this race goes on.
The Valvoline driver summary for Emerson Fittipaldi, who now runs in 3rd place, chasing Luyendyk and Andretti. Mario Andretti has moved past Bill Vukovich and Parnelli Jones in the all-time lap leader standings, and now ranks 5th with his lead here now.
As you see Emerson Fittipaldi, when I talked to him the other day, I said, what innovations would you like to see here at the Speedway? I thought he might talk about changes to the track or something. He said, I'd like to see the cockpit fully enclosed with a big plastic bubble, so there'd be a complete survival system inside the car. I hadn't thought of that, and that might be something we would see even in the next few years.
We keep an eye on Emerson Fittipaldi. He was in 3rd place, pursuit of Ari Luyendyk. You get a glimpse there of that bright yellow car. That's Teo Fabi has moved up to 4th. Nigel Mansell now runs in 5th. But we asked Emerson Fittipaldi during a great race like the Indianapolis 500, how emotional do you become while you're in the cockpit?
I think when the race starts, the first 2 or 3 laps, I'm quite emotional, but then I'm able to cool down. And actually, sometimes I'm a little too cool. I think it helps, but sometimes it doesn't help so much. But you have to be as much as relaxed as possible. On the same time, you have to be very alert, very tense, very sensitive on your skin, on your ears, and everything you see, to have a good feeling of what's happening around you. And it's a very difficult combination. But when you're able to centralize all that together and make that work, I think that's when you're on your best.
Now let's go down to the Penske pits. Emerson Fittipaldi's pit, Gary Gerald.
Paul, a lot of drivers have been complaining about loose cars. Sullivan had the push. Emerson is happy. He said the car's working just the way he wants it to. They expect his next pit stop will be right around lap number 60. He's a happy man at the moment, Paul.
Well, they're setting a fairly torrid pace. Mario's turning laps at 2:13.8. Lyondike and Fittipaldi are both keeping pace with the leader. We've just crossed over the 100-mile lap. We're at 43 laps, the 100-mile mark. So 1/5 of the race is already into the record book. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Paul, not only is Emerson Fittipaldi enjoying a good day, your leader, Mario Andretti, has no complaints about the setup of his race car. Conversely, second place, Arie Luyendyk, they did make a wicker bill change that last pit stop because the car was very loose. Now they say they only have to have it one more time. They will do it in the next pit stop with tire pressures, but he is still a bit loose.
And you know, Jack, you can watch Mario as he runs around. He gets right down on the rumble strips about half of the time. Now this indicates normally that a guy's handling really good, especially when he's going fast.
Now let's go to Jerry Punch. Nelson Piquet is with him.
And Nelson, it was a short day for you. What happened?
Well, in the carburation, we had some problem with the engine. They think they fixed the problem, but from the start of the race, I had only 50 inch of boost, and the engine didn't have it. The engine didn't have any power. I was trying to hang him in there, but it was impossible. And after that, the engine blew up.
What about the passing? A lot of concern early on about passing. Can you pass out there in the groove?
Well, I have to pass in the straight. You pass in the streamline.
Nelson Piquet, the three-time Formula One champion.
Keeping an eye, too, on another Formula One champion, the reigning champion, Nigel Mansell, as he's just handled up Arie Luyendyk and is now moving in position for an attack to the front of the field. The leader is still Mario Andretti.
Mario, you see Emerson Fittipaldi closely pursued by Nigel Mansell. I believe that Mario is still leading Arie Luyendyk. So we have two battles at the front.
As we take a look at the battle for the front of the field as Luyendyk, using the traffic, moves around Mario Andretti and picks up the lead of the race. So up to Luyendyk.
All the traffic is really making a big difference. In the turn, they're all lapping the cars now. They're really getting bunched up. We watched Luyendyk working on that hard. The speeds were clear down to 195 miles an hour. So he took advantage of it.
So Luyendyk now at the front, turned to lap at 213 miles an hour to get that accomplished. So on lap 47, another leader of the race, Arie Luyendyk. Race started with Raul Boesel in the lead, then Kevin Kogan took over, followed by Al Unser, Mario Andretti, and now Arie Luyendyk. You ride with Nigel Mansell.
Mansell is driving, by my view, a tremendous race. He's been cautious throughout, but he's staying more than just on the lead lap, which is the crucial tactical thing that you must do. He's pushing it very successfully with no mistakes.
That's Lynn St. James that sits just ahead of Mansell. Emerson Fittipaldi just passed by Mansell. Now tries to close. The traffic very definitely a factor, just as many of the drivers worry. Let's get an update on Nigel Mansell.
Well, in the midst of the biggest race of his life, Nigel Mansell radioed to his crew. He's enjoying himself. He says, I like the cautions. It's like stopping for a bit of tea.
Oh, come on.
That's the spirit of Nigel Mansell. I'll tell you what. He has enjoyed every minute that he has been here during the month of May.
The question is, will he continue to enjoy the race, though, because his Phoenix crash left his back really hurting. He had over 100 stitches. They've had to siphon blood out of a cavity there in his back, and I think as the race goes on, it's going to be tough for him.
Well, you know, as we watch him over here in turn 2, Stan McCall, he gets through here really nice. He has a good line, he's aggressive, and he realizes that it's early in the race. So I think the guy's pretty smart.
Gary Bettenhausen moves around Lynn St. James, picks up 19th place as we continue to watch Nigel Mansell. You know, though, he's been injured in racing accidents before, twice broken his back. that kind of thing doesn't seem to slow him down at all. Here's the leaderboard of the rookies now in the field, led by Nigel Mansell, who is in 3rd. Robbie Gordon is in 10th.
Just
Back
remember,
at the front of the field.
Just remember that a defending world champion has never managed to win Indianapolis, and here is Nigel Mansell running a strong 3rd as we go 50 laps into this race, 1/4 distance.
Arie Luyendyk leads it. Just 0.4 of a second back as Mario Andretti and then Nigel Mansell, and you can watch both of them now as they close on the leader. It's a 3-way battle for the lead at Indianapolis.
Remember,
Nigel sets up his teammate. Nigel moves to the inside. Can Nigel and Mario make it side by side into one? There is a battle there, and Mario slams the door on Nigel.
There's no love lost between these two men. They were teammates years ago for Lotus in Formula One, but right now, this was a team that was originally a 1-car team, Mario Andretti only, and then it became a 2-car team when Mario's son, Michael, joined it. But Mario did not have in mind having the current world champion come over and be part of that team. He's handled it well, Nigel has handled it well, but believe me, they are deadly rivals on the racetrack.
Bobby Unser, this is a terrific battle.
Yes, it is. In fact, I was trying to get in on the line there just a second to tell you that Nigel really used good judgment there. Opposite of what he did in Phoenix, Bob, because he went under Mario. He technically, in our world, had him passed, but he backed off, let Mario go on in there. And
in traffic, Bobby, they're coming toward you again.
Yes, and Nigel's going to take another run at him. He's getting back down turn 2, coming off of turn 2, and he's really going faster than Mario. He's going to be trying some passes at the end of the straightaway, using the drafting to help him do it.
The Valvoline race summary after 50 laps, 1/4 of the distance here as Mario begins now to poke his nose under the side pod of Arie Luyendyk.
One thing working for Nigel as we see him pursuing Mario here is that in a sense everyone in this race is a rookie, just the way he is because of the reconfiguring of the track. Everyone is trying to find out what's going on out there. Nigel showing Mario, sometimes you pull out like that just so that your rival sees you in the mirrors and can try to shake his concentration. It's just a little hello, here I am.
Well, pretty soon he'll surprise him, Sam, and he'll drive right on by because he does have a little bit of speed on Mario right now.
And Bobby, don't think that Emerson Fittipaldi, who lies right behind him, isn't thinking, oh, look at those guys race.
On board with Nigel Mansell, Fittipaldi may drop off of this battle. He currently runs in 4th, but he is due to pit on the next lap. He last pitted on lap 16. That's the same lap that everybody at the front stopped on. So one would assume that there goes Nigel. He moves to the inside as they come across the line. And can he hold the line down to the inside? He does. And Nigel Mansell takes over 2nd place from his teammates.
We can tell each lap, each turn, he's getting more confidence. He just looks better going through the turns. He's more in a good racing line now than we've seen.
And here is Emerson Fittipaldi. Let's go to Gary.
Emerson Fittipaldi ducked into the wrong pit area momentarily, Paul. Then he found the right spot, and he's getting the routine service. We don't see any adjustments up front. Earlier, he radioed the crew that he loved the way the car was handling. He's away smoothly. Oh, on the outside, one of the Bernstein cars. They came within inches of each other on pit road.
These stops being made under the green on the 54th lap, the second set of stops in the race, though a couple of these are staggered. Let's watch Fittipaldi as he comes in, as Gary already suggested. He missed a pit. They wave him out of there. No, that's wrong.
That's incredible because that's way far away from where his pits are. But let me tell you, as having driven in this race, it can be very tough. You're headed down. Everybody is waving at you. Stop here, stop here.
And Mario Andretti, again, the green flag stop. Jack Root is there.
It's a nominal pit stop for Mario Andretti, taking fuel and tires. You can see no major changes. I repeat, no changes in the handling.
15 seconds in and out for Mario Andretti as he accelerates on that newly constructed access road coming out of the pits. And at the front of the field, it's now Arie Luyendyk, but perhaps not for long as Nigel Mansell sweeps around, and Nigel Mansell, the rookie, he's the reigning world champion, is in the lead, Bobby.
Paul, you have to notice that was a pass on the outside. Nobody has told Nigel Mansell that you can't pass out there, especially when the racetrack is slippery. That was a fantastic pass.
Nigel Mansell is capable of doing a lot of passes that some others may not.
Bobby, when I talked to him earlier this year at his home in Clearwater, I asked him what made him better than the others, and he gave me a couple of evasive answers, and then he said, well, I go into the turns faster than they do, and that was evidence of it right there.
And Nigel Mansell now heads into the pits. He last stopped on the 16th lap. This is lap 56, so he's carried the car a fairly good distance, and Jack Arute awaits his arrival.
The first pit stop of IndyCar competition at the Indianapolis 500 for Nigel Mansell. Trying to slow him down, he locks it up and hits the marks exactly. As we listen, and you watch, no changes on Nigel Mansell's car either. They are going to live with it the longest part of this activity to take on the fuel, and he is off and away in 16.7 seconds.
Jack, this team has really hit the setup when you think about it. Both their cars in and out of the pits with no major changes of any kind.
Mansell moves back to the fight. Arie Luyendyk picks up the lead, but he is due to stop at any second. In fact, he is already on pit road as well. So here is the leader, Arie Luyendyk, and that will give the lead of the race back to Al Unser. Now, Unser last stopped on the 39th lap. This cycle we're seeing are all drivers that stopped on lap number 16. Arie, too, seems satisfied with the car. No obvious changes. Let's go to Jack.
And Paul, they have made a wing adjustment in Arie Luyendyk's car. They are still having problems, and in 15.9 seconds, they changed the front wing and the rear tire pressures, trying to cure the loose condition.
So with those stops, Al Unser picks up the lead of the Indy 500. He's running laps at 200 miles an hour. His son, Little Al, currently runs in second place, and Arie Luyendyk came out of the pits running in third. We'll be back.
Sea Hero captured the Derby. Prairie Bayou won the Preakness. Now these two champions meet in horse racing's toughest test. The Belmont Stakes, live Saturday on ABC Sports.
Back live at Indianapolis as we watch Scott Brayton hold off Paul Tracy. This is a battle now for 5th place.
Only 4 drivers in the race have more experience here than Scott Brayton. So it's not a surprise to see him able to hold off the highly touted rookie, Paul Tracy.
With the pit stops being staggered now, one group stopping on lap 16, and then again a few laps ago, and another group waiting until lap 39, the second yellow. There's the 59 car. That's Eddie Cheever, that last-minute jump into the Indy 500 as he makes what appears to be a routine stop. And this is Roberto Guerrero. That is a stop-and-go penalty being assessed. He was black flagged. Boy, look at him power that thing on. Almost lost the back end. He was black flagged and called in for that penalty because he exceeded the pit speed limit of 100 miles an hour. He was warned once, and then they gave him the black flag penalty. Al Unser leads it. Al Unser Jr. is second. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Al Jr. has his car on pit road. Remember, they changed the wicker bill earlier. This time they make an adjustment to the right front wing because Al Jr. had complained of having a push going in and being loose coming out. Maybe the wing adjustment will tweak it just to the proper setting. Paul?
So first and second place, just that quickly stopped. Al Unser and Al Unser Jr. The two of them are running together. Bobby?
Boy, I'll tell you what, Paul. Watch the black strip on the outside of the turns. Right there, you see the red and white car, the Marlboro car coming out. They don't get into the black right now. The turns are slippery. The racetrack is slippery. The speeds are down to 200 miles an hour. There's Scott Brayton into the pit. But watch now. The track is just very slippery in the normal groove.
So the track is changing. You suggested, Bobby, the groove may move up on the track as the day wears on?
Yes, right now they're going as low as they can, Paul. They go to the apex of the rumble strip in the middle of the turn. They're not going out to the wall coming off. Now, as the time goes on, we're starting to see a few of the cars are going up higher in the middle of the turn. But they're still coming off down low because that's where it's the driest.
Scott Brayton entered the pits in 4th place. And take a look at this. John Andretti is now the leader of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. John Andretti, who did not have a ride coming to the last day. And now Robbie Gordon moves past John. He just did it on the back straightaway. And Robbie Gordon, the rookie, picks up the lead. There's John Andretti. He peeled off, came in, and then gave the lead to Gordon. Let's go to Jack.
Paul, the biggest smile on pit road is from A.J. Foyt. He is voicing, he is actually signaling to John Andretti something, trying to give him a word. Let's see if we can find out exactly what it was. A.J., what did you tell John?
I was telling him reset fuel button because we're kind of gambling a little bit, and we just wondering not to run out.
That's the man.
So with John in and out, Robbie is next up. And Robbie is on the pit road as he'll head down to A.J. Foyt's pits. And Jack Arute continues to watch.
It is absolutely amazing, Paul, as A.J. Foyt watches first place, then second place, and now Robbie Gordon, your leader, comes in his team car. He takes the water bottle. They are making no major changes on either car. Gordon trying to maintain his composure. Remember, he is the rookie team with John Andretti. And they pull as we watch Paul Tracy. Let's go to Paul.
Now, Paul Tracy makes the stop at the same time as Robbie Gordon, though a little bit longer. Paul Tracy rolls back into the fight, but he's fallen out of the top 10 on this stop. And notice how carefully he rolls through the pits. Now, at this point on the track, they can pick up speed and move back up to racing speed. These stops again, all under the green. There's Jeff Andretti, the familiar Andretti helmet. After a year of rehabilitation, is back running the Indianapolis 500. And Jeff Brabham, one of the Menard cars, a car that has been troublesome for Jeff this month. He only got 2 laps in the final practice session.
Jeff Brabham, he told me the other day, you know, I'm not doing badly for an unemployed racing driver. He doesn't have a regular ride, but he's running here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and in a few weeks he'll be running for Peugeot at Le Mans. So he's doing the 2 biggest races in the world, even though he doesn't have a regular ride. There's Dominic Dobson leaving the pits in a sister car to last year's winning car.
So now under the green flag, the racing continues on the track, and this man, Scott Goodyear, now picks up the lead. Scott Goodyear at the lead of the Indianapolis 500. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station. Back live in Indianapolis, you look down from the Goodyear blimp Spirit. The captain is Aaron Jenkins. By the way, the blimp is traveling at 32 miles an hour, while Nigel Mansell, the leader just below us there, has been traveling laps at 210.5 miles an hour. He is chased by his teammate Mario Andretti. Take a look at the Valvoline driver summary. Started in 8th place, now 1st. The record number of leaders in the Indianapolis 500 was set in 1980 with 10 different leaders. We're already there, and we're not even to the halfway point, Sam.
Well, I think what set up the situation, as you see the blimp there, with a staggered first series of pit stops. So half the field, in effect, stopped early, and the other half waited. And as the race is shaken out, it's starting to form up now to an understandable thing. But certainly in this last, in the first quarter of the race, it's very confusing.
So Nigel Mansell at the front of the field. Mario, then Emerson Fittipaldi. 4th is Teo Fabi. Arie Luyendyk is 5th. Al Unser, followed by his son. 6th and 7th. Robbie Gordon is now in 8th. 9th is John Andretti, and 10th is Scott Brayton.
You are riding there with Nigel Mansell.
We ride with Nigel Mansell. We talked to him. Gary Gerald had an opportunity to ask him, when you're in the cockpit, are you aware of this giant crowd that surrounds the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? What are your concerns during the race itself?
I think the biggest thing is that I've never raced on an oval before. I mean, I tried at Phoenix, but didn't quite get there. So, I mean, it's going to be very difficult, and this is not just an oval, this is the fastest oval, the super speedway. I've just got to keep an open mind. I think I want to stay out of trouble. I hope that the car is reliable, and, you know, I've never gone more than 200 miles in my racing career. So to do 500 miles is going to be a new experience as well, to be in the car over 3 hours probably. it's definitely going to be another new experience. I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of firsts this weekend, and I just hope I can come through it all and you know, draw on the experience and gain a lot of strength and go on from there.
So Nigel points to his greatest concern as he passed over the 200-mile mark, or will pass over it here 4 laps ahead. That'll be the longest distance he has ever driven, so he will pass into unknown territory. So far, he has handled these pit stops very well.
Notice how little he has to move the steering wheel as he goes through the turn. That's the indication that the balance of the car, front to rear, is perfect. Remember how fast the steering is on these cars. If it was a passenger car, you'd have to take 2 or 3 turns on the wheel to get through a turn. Not these. The steering is very fast, very responsive.
You know, Sam, one of the things I notice about Nigel and Mario's cars both, is they seem to be handling better, or more consistently better, than all the other cars in the race today.
There is no contest at the front of the field as we look through the running order at the conclusion of the 76th lap. Everything runs static down through the top 10. We've reached that point in the race where the race tends to settle just a bit.
It's really the Newman-Haas team placing first and second, with pursuit by the Penske team. These are the most powerful teams in IndyCar auto racing at this point, and right now they're occupying the first 3 positions in this race.
The last time that team cars finished first and second was in 1962. Bob Wilkie's leader car team. Roger Ward winning and Len Sutton in second. Or when Len Sutton pulled in at the end of the race, his throttle fell off. And A.J. Watson, his crew chief, said, well, they're only supposed to go 500 miles anyway.
Now you can really see the difference. Watch Mansell back there working on his prey right in front of him. But watch how he's been doing this stuff. He went across the short chute, got a run, passed him coming off in 2, and right down the long back straightaway with an easy pass, Paul.
Remember, Danny Sullivan pushed up into the wall, and there was contact. Now he is with Jerry Punch.
Danny, a short day for you and a close call. What happened out there?
Well, we're not really sure right now. We might have found something that was a problem, that maybe a piece broke, but just going into 3, I just radioed in and said I've got a lot more push than I've had, and we had just put more front wing in it and tried some stuff to get less push. And part of the way around 3, I just had no more steering. I mean, in terms of that the wheels weren't turning the car. I mean, I had plenty of steering in my steering wheel, but didn't change direction and just went straight up and got up in the gray and couldn't turn the car at all and hit the fence coming off of 3. And so hopefully we found what it is. But those are kind of the ones you walk away from going, boy, I really wish I knew what happened.
Let me show you how close a call Danny Sullivan had. Look at his race car here. This spot right here is the lower A-frame from the right side of the car that's come all the way through the tub, underneath his knees, and pierced through the left side, extending out. Danny had that close a call with the wall, guys.
Of course, all of these cars very carefully designed to account for safety. Nigel Mansell still leads, chased by Mario Andretti, but you see now that Fittipaldi is closing in, trying to catch Andretti. For the moment, they have a separation between them. That's the 76 car, Tony Bettenhausen at the wheel. 10 different leaders in the Indianapolis 500 thus far, as we've just passed over the 200-mile mark. So Nigel Mansell is an unknown territory.
ABC Sports exclusive coverage of the Indianapolis 500, brought to you by Molson. The call comes down from Canada. Crisp, clean, refreshing. Molson, answer the call. By Goodyear, #1 in tires. By the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet and your local Chevy dealer. And by Visa. It's everywhere you want to be.
Back at the Indianapolis 500, Emerson Fittipaldi running in 3rd place. Heads for the pits. It's anticipated that the leaders will be in shortly. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Time world champion in Formula One, Emerson Fittipaldi, who 10 years ago came to IndyCars in for what should be routine service here. There was a bit of concern over the oil pump, but now we understand from the crew that it is routine use, not a concern. Emerson is like to set up on the car. We've got him in 15.9 seconds on this stop.
bit of a stutter for Fittipaldi. He comes out conscious. Here's Teo Fabi, who was running right behind the leaders, now has fallen to 6th place as he came in for this stop. But he's been running a very consistent race thus far. Certainly not out of the fight.
And for the Jim Hall team, which in the 70s won 2 Indy 500. So here's a team with a lot of experience.
Report on the weather, Tim and Paul. Everything is really looking good. We can look a long ways to the west. It doesn't look any better or any worse than the start of the race. I'd say it's all go.
Well, a little higher up than you are, Aaron Jenkins, the captain of the Goodyear Blimp Spirit, is looking more to the west and says that there may be rain at about 1 o'clock Indianapolis time. It's about 12:14 in Indianapolis right now. Only one driver will savor the milk here in Victory Lane today, but next Sunday there will be plenty for all in the Dairy State from Wisconsin. IndyCar's best meet again at the Miller Genuine Draft 200, live at 1 o'clock Eastern here on ABC Sports. And Mario Andretti, 2nd place. Rolling down the pit road as the yellow comes out once again, and what an advantage for both Nigel and for Mario. Let's go to Jack.
This could be costly for Mario Andretti. They're going to continue. Now, many drivers said that if they had a yellow come out, they would go through the pit lane. Remember, they closed pit lane. He may have snuck in and crossed the line before he crossed that line. If he had crossed the line and the yellow had come out, he would have been in deep trouble, but he made it in time. He is off and away.
Yes, the yellow appeared to flash on just after he passed over the start-finish line in the pits, honoring the speed limit. As other cars now take an opportunity to come in, Jim Crawford is in. And this is routine service on that. So Crawford is now in and out. So Nigel Mansell should be expected any time now. He's completed the 89th lap, expected, of course, after they open the pits, which are now closed. Nigel begins to slow and get the field in tow behind him.
Well, Paul, he's really got to slow down, too. He looks like the old days of when we had the number system out here to slow the cars down.
He may be slow now, but he did 200 autographs in 1 hour at a autograph session down in Australia earlier this year. Here's Gary Bettenhausen on board with a man who would desperately like to succeed at this race. A whole family committed to the idea of winning the Indianapolis 500. His dad killed here in 1960 in a practice run, and Gary Bettenhausen has really carried the torch for that family ever since.
The cause of the yellow was the 60 car, Jim Crawford, who caused the first yellow, spun and continued. Jim Crawford did it again. They're averaging 173 miles an hour to this point.
I'm Jack Nicklaus. Join me and the world's greatest golfers as we honor Arnold Palmer at this year's Memorial Tournament. Coverage begins Saturday on ABC Sports.
We are back live at Indianapolis. Under the yellow, Nigel Mansell, the leader of the race, came into the pits, but actually missed his pit position. The crew had to pull him back, Jack.
He did, Paul, but he showed a great deal of poise because he waited. He didn't make a miscue. He waited for Jim McGee to give him a signal as to what to do. As he overshot his pit, he locked up the tires. He waited patiently. Once he was told what to do, they pushed him back into his pit stall. As you can see now, he just waits. McGee radios to him. They push him back into the pit stall, and they complete the activities. Very, very lucky that it did not occur under green. It occurred under caution. Paul?
Here's the onboard Nigel Mansell's car, led to a 42-second stop.
And you see how tough it is to pick out exactly where it is that you want to stop. Look at how many different pits there are along the way. We thought that Nigel might be susceptible to a mistake of this kind. It's happened to him. It does not appear to have cost him a great deal. But this is what a rookie runs into when he runs Indy for the first time, whether you're world champion or not.
But Nigel was very careful about that, very patient. Once the mistake was made, he did not compound it. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
There were problems on the stop for Scott Goodyear as well. He was running in 8th position, Paul, came into the pits. They made the service. He started to pull out. The engine died. They had to go through that whole procedure of getting it restarted. He was in here about 30 seconds. But again, because of the yellow, it didn't cost him that much room on the racetrack.
And you know, Paul, another thing, we think Fabi, Guerrero, and Emo lost a lap on that by pitting at the wrong time. Pit stop came wrong.
So running under the yellow, Mario Andretti has the lead of the race. Al Unser Jr. is in second place. Or Al Unser is in second place. Jr. is in third. And most of the top of the field have completed their stops. Coming up later today on ABC Sports is one of golf's most entertaining events. Hall of Famers Nancy Lopez, Pat Bradley will join the LPGA champion Betsy King for the final 9 holes of the J.C. Penney LPGA Skins game. That's today at 3:30 Eastern here on ABC Sports. So we wait for the green flag to come out again. Mario Andretti has the field in tow as the leader of the race. You ride with him. He is followed by Al Unser, then Unser Jr., then Arie Luyendyk. In 5th place is Paul Tracy, then Scott Brayton, then Nigel Mansell has fallen to 7th. Scott Goodyear is 8th, and John Andretti is 9th.
So that mistake means Mansell is going to have to do some passing here. He's proved he can do that, but it's an exciting situation with Mario ahead and Nigel poised to pick up speed.
Back up to speed once again as Mario Andretti down on the inside looks for racy room, coming up through the pack in this field. The closest car in pursuit will be the 80 car of Al Unser, that red and white car. Mario comes past Bobby Unser.
Down out here, they're still running it very low on the racetrack, Paul. The track is still slippery. We expect the oil and the liquids to just start soaking in before too long.
And when it soaks in, Bobby, does that mean that now it will be better and they can go back and run down on it?
They certainly will, Paul. They'll be able to use more of the track, get a better arc through the track instead of such a conservative line. The speeds in the race, racing speeds, have been around 200 to 201 miles an hour. That's a far cry from the 214 we started with.
You know, the leading 2 drivers at this point, and you see Mario, here's a pass by Little Al.
Jr. as he moves around Arie Luyendyk as they battle for 3rd. And Al Unser is in position now. So Arie Luyendyk slides back. He was ahead of Little Al for a moment there, and then Al took him right back.
It's the Andretti's versus the Unsers with Mansell part of the mix.
Al Unser Jr. The view backwards now over his shoulder. Eddie Cheever just ahead of him. And here is the Chevrolet onboard telemetry from this car. And Paul Tracy against the wall. The yellow comes out again. Paul Tracy into the wall. The rest of the field coming by safely. So now that change in the groove, the change of the track that Bobby Unser mentioned, is beginning to tell. Paul Tracy moving in the cockpit, takes the steering wheel off, appears to be okay. Some of the padding in the cockpit, Bobby.
Well, Paul, the track is slippery. That's what we've been saying, and obviously that's what we're going to find out happened to Paul Tracy. There's Roger Penske talking to him now, trying to figure out what went wrong so he can tell Emmo.
So as Paul Tracy climbs out of the car, we are under yellow again. 95 laps are complete. We're approaching the halfway point. We'll return after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
His wife gave birth to.
We're back in Indianapolis as we watch the cleanup crews here take care of Paul Tracy's wounded car and also clean up a spill of some coolant that has drifted across the track. There is Tracy as he got into the wall. One report is that he may have been very close to another car trying to get under him at the time. There may be that other car, the 22 car of Scott Brayton, though it doesn't tell in this particular view whether or not that was the issue.
Paul, compare these accidents with last year when the spin started down on the apron and the angle with which the cars hit the wall was much steeper than this. You see, Paul Tracy really only glances the wall the way Al Unser Jr. did a couple of years ago when he was racing Emerson Fittipaldi for the lead down in turn 3. He got away with that one too. I think the track is much safer, but it's much tougher to pass on.
Let's go to the Penske pits, Gary Gerald.
Roger Penske coming down. You have a chance to talk to Paul, any indication what the problem was?
Yeah, he told me on the radio, he said he was down under Scott Brayton, and Scott moved over on him. He had to cut down, I guess, on the shoulder and lost control of the car. I haven't been able to see it on television, but I'm sure you can see it there.
Is there any indication, are the changes in the track making it tougher for your drivers this year?
No, I think everyone's really looking out for each other. They're giving each other the room they need. You can see it in the lap times. We're running a 2:05 to 2:09 is a real good lap time. So basically the track has slowed everybody down, but it's the same for everybody out there.
Is Emerson happy?
Yeah, right now, yeah, he was running 209 there that last segment. It was good and bad luck in that accident because it put Emerson back around because we got caught on that yellow when he came in, and then it went yellow right after that.
But at least better than last year when both of your cars went out at the same time. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks.
Let's go to Jack.
Well, Gary, don't expect to see Arie Luyendyk being too racy on this restart. The Ganassi crew has radioed to him to go to full lean. They're beginning to be a little bit concerned about having enough fuel to go the distance. So he is going to back off the throttle for a while and wait this one out.
Under this yellow, Fittipaldi comes in. They top off on fuel. Fittipaldi is the leader of that group, 1 lap behind, running in 10th place. The leader under yellow is Mario, followed by Al Unser, then Al Unser Jr., then Arie Luyendyk. The top 4 are former winners at Indianapolis.
ABC Sports exclusive coverage of the Indianapolis 500. Brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. By Miller Genuine Draft Light, the cold filtered light with smooth draft taste, MGD Light. Say no more. By Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. And by prescription strength Lotrimin AF, the cure that gets it all.
Hovering at 1,000 feet, the Goodyear Blimp Spirit is one of 3 blimps in the Goodyear fleet and the largest, over 200 feet long, drifting over the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, helping with the coverage here today. The view down, you can see some of the crews are heading back to their station, and the yellow will soon be over.
Well, you can see the golf course down there on the left. I had a chance to walk it the other day, and the first thing that caught my eye was that the retaining walls are made of sections of the old track wall that was disassembled last year. Designer Pete Dye seems to have done a wonderful job, and I'm sure the Speedway's pro Raleigh Schroeder will soon be besieged by requests to play this course, especially from the drivers, because at least half the drivers in this field are devoted golfers.
Beautiful circuit. Still under yellow. Mario Andretti has just completed the halfway point, 250 miles. At the conclusion of this lap, should it rain, it will be an official race. We'll be back.
The IndyCar excitement doesn't end here at the Brickyard. Next stop, Milwaukee, for the Miller Genuine Draft 200 live next Sunday on ABC Sports.
We're back live at Indianapolis, the 77 500, the Valvoline race summary. Mario Andretti is the leader. We have had 10 different leaders matching the record set in 1980. In second place, it's Al Unser, followed by Unser Jr. out of the race. Danny Sullivan, who hit the wall. Nelson Piquet had his engine let go. Stan Fox is out of the race. And Paul Tracy, of course, brushed the wall, bringing out the yellow. More than brushed it, he hit it. So now we should be coming back to a green flag as they come down the backstretch. This is the running order after 100 laps. And Mario Andretti has completed. Look at Al Unser as he comes up alongside of Mario.
Incredible to see Mario Andretti and Al Unser Sr. racing each other again. These are the 2 most experienced drivers in the race, 27, 28 years respectively. It's almost as if it was the early 1970s all over again.
Raul Boycel is right there with the leaders, so he is a lap behind the race itself. Pace car heads for the pit road. Dwayne Sweeney's green flag signaled to Mario Andretti.
Boy, did Mario make the most of that restart. He accelerated hard back in turn 3, which you're perfectly entitled to do. Everyone else was asleep.
Look at the spacing, Bobby Unser.
Yes, he's coming through here down to the rumble strips, right back out, and again, he looks like he's the best Henry car on the track. Between he and Mansell, I think it's a toss-up, Paul.
Bobby, the wind has come up in the last few minutes. How does the sky look to you there? We're past half distance, of course. It is an official race.
Sam, the wind isn't bad over here. It hasn't changed probably since the race started. Of course, remember, the wind, this is a large track. It's different in different places around the track, but it's good here.
Captain Aaron Jenkins on the Goodyear Blimps has on their radar there is no sign of rain at the moment, though some of the teams are beginning to become concerned about that. Let's get an update on Mario from Jack Arute.
Well, that's one of the teams that is concerned. They radioed in, and Ed Nathman told Mario Andretti during that last caution, we are watching the weather. If it begins to change, we will change the setup. He said, let's leave it the way it is right now, but if it does change, look for major changes on your lead car.
On board second place, Al Unser Jr., 9 seconds behind the leader, Mario. And Mario, as we watch Brayton and Lyondike, this is a battle for third. Brayton sits in third at the moment. Mario has passed Wilbur Shaw, and the all-time lap leader is now ranking fourth as he continues to roll up laps in the lead.
Well, you can watch as the cars come out of that turn we just saw there at the different grooves that they take. Just look at the difference between the guys that run out where it's black, the guys that are down where it's gray.
How much has it changed since the start of this race, Bobby?
Oh, it's probably changed, I would say, at least 4 times already, Paul. I can see tracks way out into the gray, and most of it now, they're back to the bottom of the racetrack. Pretty much of a normal groove.
And that's where being a veteran pays off here. Mario Andretti, the most experienced driver, starting this race today. Nigel is now closing in on Arie Luyendyk, making it a 3-way battle for third. Scott Brayton in that brightly colored number 22 car currently occupies it. The 3 participants just flashed past one of the wall-mounted cameras here. Here they come again.
Experience is really paying off. The first 3 drivers have all been in this race more than 10 times. They've been through this sort of thing before, and they are veterans of the configuration of the track before that inner strip was paved, and now for this year unpaved. So they're racing on a track that was familiar to them from a couple of years before. Nigel Mansell running a very high groove right
here comes Luyendyk. Luyendyk very much reminiscent of his pass of Bobby Rahal to win the Indy 500. Luyendyk just dusted young Brayton off, and now here comes Nigel Mansell. So both of them passed just that quick, and as Bobby Unser suggested, on the entry to the corner.
But he slid clear out into the gray, Paul. I don't know if we all got that or not, but Luyendyk went down there and he slid right out of the gray, had to soft pedal it, and it looked like he was going to get past again in the short chute for a little while there.
So a change at the top of the order, and very quickly. Let's update on Luyendyk then.
Paul, the radio went out to Luyendyk. We're okay on fuel. Turn it back and go for it.
Arie Luyendyk was reporting earlier, Jack Arute, that he was having trouble when running in traffic. Have they been able to correct that yet?
They are still chasing that problem, Paul, but so far they've made minor adjustments. They don't want to do too much because, as Bobby Unser has said, the track continues to change.
Riding with the leader, Mario Andretti now. His fastest lap thus far at 213 miles an hour. His last lap at 209. You can see the skies have turned leaden overhead. But still, no report from the blimp of a hint of rain.
Weather from our position, Paul, still looks good. I don't see any problem. I can't see anything getting any darker over here. It's kind of light off to the west, and that's what we want.
Mario Andretti out by the pool at the Speedway Motel the other day, wearing his reading glasses in public for the first time. I think he's realized that it's, after his Phoenix win, it's okay to be old now, as long as you're still fast. Demonstrably, he is.
Mansell still chases Luyendyk. Unser Jr. separates them from the leader. And now, look at this game of cat and mouse as Mansell and Luyendyk battle going into turn 1 and coming toward Bobby.
Now remember, Mansell's car's not been bothered in the wind. We've watched him race, we've watched him up close to people, and he's moving up on Luyendyk right now, so I don't think the air disturbance is going to bother him, but Luyendyk will worry about it, Paul.
Bobby, Mansell seems to be running an awfully high line off these turns. The latter part of the turn, he's pushing right into the gray stuff. That's right underneath you.
As I said just a bit ago, Sam, Mansell's car is handling, and the racetrack has gone back to more of a normal now, which means that the fluid that the guys have lost, oil, water, and etc., is soaking in. And the track's really looking like it did more towards the start of the race now.
Paul Tracy hit the wall earlier. Now he's with Jerry Punch.
And he hit it awfully hard, Paul. Paul, a tough afternoon for you. What happened?
Well, we were out there running pretty good, and I was trying to get by Brayton, and we went side by side down the straight and went into 3 together, and he clipped my front wheel with his back tire, and just it knocked the front wheel out of alignment and went me straight up in the wall. I feel like for the crew and all the sponsors, Marble Racing. It's a tough day. We were running good, and we'll be back at Milwaukee.
You hit awfully hard. You got some marks on the uniform here. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I got some marks, and I'd say the biggest thing that's hurt is my ego. So we'll be back next week, and we've been out testing Milwaukee, and I think we're ready to go there.
Paul Tracy.
Of course, ABC Sports will be there too. The Miller Genuine Draft 200 next week at Milwaukee on the famous Milwaukee Mile. You got a glimpse there, Bobby Unser, of how the two did get together. And I guess my question, Bobby, would be, what about Brayton's car?
Well, it was in the rear. The rears on these cars are a whole lot stronger than the front. Paul Tracy got touched with Brayton by where his car's really weak. And it only takes just a fraction. Like Danny Sullivan was thinking that something happened to his. It only takes a fraction to throw them out at more than 200 miles an hour. They just zapple right into the walls.
Back watching the battle for third place, Arie Luyendyk is just ahead of Nigel Mansell as you ride with Nigel. When you see the IndyCar like this, condensation you see is not rain, not moisture from the air. More often than not, it's a blowback from the car in front of them. Might be a speck of oil or something as they run up through the gears. So as yet, no rain that is a real concern. The second place runner is Al Unser Jr. There is a concern in that pit for how many tires he will need before the end of the race, Gary Gerald.
Was a concern, Paul. The key word now, there is no longer a concern. You see this? A fresh, thicker, brand new tires have just been rolled out. They got one more set from Goodyear. They've got 3 fresh sets now ready to go. They're not scrubbed. That'll give them maximum adhesion. Rick Gallis is very happy that they just got this stack of tires.
But earlier there is Nigel Mansell as he gets Arie Luyendyk for third place. And now Mansell has an opportunity to look ahead to Al Unser Jr. That's slower traffic just ahead. And Nigel takes care of it with no problem whatsoever.
Well, you know, seeing him carve up the field like this, you'd think he's kind of a hot-headed guy, but he really isn't. He's extremely deliberate personally. He puts his gloves in one place, his equipment bag in another place in the truck. Everything has to be in order so that his mind is organized so that he can do this kind of thing out on the racetrack.
Sam, it's amazing how much I've watched him grow up or learn or get smarter during the course of this race, and this race is only a little bit more than halfway old. The guy's capable of learning faster than anybody I've seen in a long time.
Well, Bobby, we understood that in comparison with Alain Prost, who has taken over Nigel's seat on the Williams team in Formula One, Patrick Head, the engineer there, offered this comparison. He said, Nigel is very accommodating. He'll put up with anything. Whereas Prost is very finicky and has to everything just a certain way. And Nigel can put up with anything.
As we ride with Nigel now, we can go back and take a look. This was a few laps ago. That's Arie Luyendyk just in front. And this is the pass as both of them looking ahead to slower traffic.
See, when Arie threw that block on Nigel, it slowed him up going in. And that's why Nigel, who saw what happened, was able to pick him up coming out of the turn. A neat bit of driving by both men.
Here it is again, different view.
And if you notice, Paul, that's right across the short chute. Like we said, that probably would happen earlier. Slow down going into the turn, accelerate across the short chute, and that's exactly how he got that one done.
So Nigel lost his Arie Luyendyk lost his momentum, and Nigel took advantage of it. Nigel seems very conscious of momentum and keeping your speed up on this giant speedway, 2.5 miles around.
Well, also momentum in terms of his career. Here he is, the defending world champion. Here we're looking at the
this is the radar, the weather radar on board the blimp. Of course, we don't know what direction it's pointed, but we assume it is pointed to the west, and all you can see is ground clutter. So no radar measurable rain from the blimp. So for the time being, we're safe here, Bobby.
Paul, I'd just like to report that your weatherman at turn 2 has been right so far. We still can't see any rain, and it looks lighter.
I think you've got a future, Bobby.
So Bobby Unser doubles as a weatherman in his position in turn 2. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station. We're back live at the Indianapolis 500 on the backstretch. This is the battle on the racetrack. It is a fight for second place. Nigel Mansell closing on the defending champion, Al Unser Jr.
Now, Paul, as I watch him when he comes through turn 2, Nigel can get to Little Al, but he can't seem to work past him. Now keep another thing in mind. At the Ford, Nigel Mansell, the one behind, number 3 car, that's Little Al's in a Chevy. So we can see that the engines have come out to be relatively well matched during the race.
That fight's heading for you now, Bobby.
They're coming through here, and both of them are in identically the same grooves. I'll bet they don't miss it over 6 inches, Paul. So I kind of think maybe Nigel is not really trying hard to pass Little Al, but possibly just learning from him.
And Nigel has learned the lesson of staying stuck on the back of the car in front of him. Looking at the telemetry coming out of Al Unser Jr.'s car. Speed, RPMs, throttle. Watch the throttle especially.
Yes, and also, Paul, keep in mind that all of these cars here have 2 racing gears. They have a high gear and a low gear, or a cruise gear and a passing gear or racing gear.
Look at the disparity between the straightaway speed of 230 mile an hour and the turn speed of down here at 190 and change. It's been years since we've seen the drivers back off in the turns. They've been taking the turns flat out. Not so this year.
And Sam, today we actually get down in the turn where we are in turn 2. We can hear them backing up. We can actually hear them feathering some of the engine.
Nigel closing to the inside, Bobby, as he tries to get alongside Little Al, but the slower traffic prevents that from happening. Little Al used it very well.
That's one of those deals where the camera's going out backward, but believe me, the traffic is what got him right there.
Little Al, of course, highly motivated. It's very much in his mind as you see Nigel rip past a couple of slower cars, and we ride with Nigel, seeing Little Al right ahead of him there. Little Al very motivated by the idea that the last person to win back-to-back Indy 500s was his dad back in 1970 and 71. He alone, of course, in the race this year as the defending champion has the opportunity to do that.
Keeping track of other drivers in the field. Eddie Cheever now runs 18th. He was part of that drama on the last day of qualifying here that pushed Bobby Rahal out of the field. And Lynn St. James, last year's Rookie of the Year, now runs in 20th position.
Remember that these 2 drivers tangled at Long Beach just a few weeks ago. So Nigel, that was a case of Little Al trying to pass Nigel, but I think Nigel knows that this is a man not to be fooled with, especially when you're taking turns at almost 200 miles an hour.
And Sam, these guys are professionals. Grudges don't go to the racetracks. They get a little bit mad at each other off the tracks, and when they happen, but it'll never happen here by these 2 guys.
Continuing to watch the battle for second place, Unser Jr. and Nigel Mansell, the defending champion and the reigning world champion.
And Paul, as I watch them going through by us, I think that it's
Roberto Guerrero in trouble in the pits. He was in and out for a stop. He was running in 5th place and stalled. Crew member Falls trying to get him going again. He appears to be okay, and he's still not up to speed. Remember when this cost Roberto Guerrero the Indy 500?
And it looks like it's the same type of problem. It looks like he doesn't have a clutch, Paul. And if you don't have one, you can't put the clutch in, rev the engine up, get turbo pressure, and then take off. And that's the reason you see him taking off as slow as he is.
Nigel Mansell again looking for position on Al Unser Jr. Let's go to Jack.
Paul, look for a minor wing adjustment change during this stop for Nigel Mansell. He says he wants a half turn taken out of the wing. He will be coming in approximately 2 laps. His teammate Mario Andretti likewise will be pitting within that window. He says he wants no changes.
You know, as I watch Little Al and Mansell running right there on the screen, Paul, it reminds me of 2 guys that are really not going to make a big, super issue out of second place right now, because I think they're both in their cruise gears, and they're just letting it go like that. If Mansell wanted to go by, he would shift the gear. Little Al had enough time. Here comes Little Al in now. But he would shift his gears and go faster, too.
So Al Unser Jr. on the pit road from second place, making his stop. He rolls in. We watch for changes on the car. Fuel rolls in. Nobody's touched a wing yet. Front wings remain in position. And it doesn't look like they're going to do anything to the rear either. They clear the coolers on the front of the car, make sure that no wax paper or debris has gotten in there that might affect the cooling of the car and cause it to overheat. And we have yellow. As Mario Andretti comes in, 2 cars together on the track. The first time we've had contact between 2 today, the yellow flag comes out.
Jeff Andretti on the right, in that we're going to see him on the left here, who of course had that terrible accident here last year. So we're very concerned about Jeff Andretti. He was in a big accident here last year. This is his first race, having spent a year in rehabilitation.
The other car appears to be Roberto Guerrero, who, remember, was just in the pits. And that's Roberto being helped out of the car. Mario Andretti, the leader of the race, in and out just as the yellow came on. So again, Mario picks an advantage of the yellow light. And we are under yellow at Indianapolis. This time an accident involving Roberto Guerrero and Jeff Andretti.
ABC Sports exclusive coverage of the Indianapolis 500. Brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. By the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. By Goodyear, #1 in tires. And by Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car.
We're back, still under yellow. Here's the lineup under this yellow flag. An accident involving Roberto Guerrero and Jeff Andretti, though both drivers climbed in and out of climbed out of their cars rather quickly. And there is now a report that there will be a stop-and-go penalty for Mario Andretti, who sits in 3rd place, as his teammate and the leader of the race, Nigel Mansell, comes in for pit service. He was the leader of the group behind the pace car. This time, Nigel makes the marks with no problem whatsoever.
This is the first bit of bad luck for Mario, or bad calculation.
And some adjustment to the front wing as Tom Wirtz, his chief, keeps track of him and waves him finally back into the action. No hurry here because the course is under yellow. On that access road, you can see the separation between the track and the access road. Now here's the situation that created this accident. Guerrero tried to get down under Jeff, and it didn't work. The 2 of them ended up against the wall. And look at Nigel Mansell ducking by on the inside underneath. Here is Nigel Mansell's onboard camera of this same accident.
And this is the first time Nigel Mansell has seen a crash like this from the cockpit of his Indy car. In road racing, usually when guys have an accident, they have it all by themselves. Here they ricochet often back into your way. And of course there it wasn't too bad, and he threaded his way through pretty easily.
Nigel tiptoed so carefully between this accident and the grass to his left. And of course, you get off on that grass, it's pretty slick.
Well, also the rumble strips that lie between the track and the grass can really grab that left front wheel and almost wrench the steering wheel out of your hands. You got to treat it with great care.
Sam, you could even see the right rear in Guerrero's car. That's the one that's on the right, the red car. You could even see that one lean up against Andretti's car, and it got it bent a little bit. And so after they did get loose a little bit, he really didn't have any control left.
Roberto Guerrero's car owner is drag racer Kenny Bernstein. He's with Gary Gerald.
Kenny, have you had any radio contact? Can you tell us anything that came from Roberto as to what happened?
No, I can't right now. In fact, when he said something was wrong, and then he got out of the car, and we don't know what happened exactly.
When you limped out of here, it looked like you had clutch problems after that last pit stop as well.
Yeah, we had a clutch problem, but we were okay. We pushed it and got it started. We could have been okay there, but I don't really know what happened with the wreck, what took place.
All right, thank you, Kenny. Paul?
All right. Ari Luyendyk picks up the lead of the race with Nigel's pit stop. In 2nd is Mario Andretti. Scott Goodyear now runs in 3rd. Raul Boisel is 4th. Al Unser Jr. 5th. And Al Unser runs in 6th place. As we see the Andretti car being taken back in. Saturday, ABC Sports presents one of golf's premier events. Host Jack Nicklaus and the PGA's best salute this year's honoree Arnold Palmer at the Memorial Tournament, sponsored by Dean Witter. And then live coverage beginning at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 a.m. in Pacific. Then it's ABC's Wide World of Sports, following with the final jewel of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge, the Belmont Stakes. And that coverage is live. So with Ari Luyendyk the pole sitter, back at the front of the field. 131 laps are now complete in the 77th Indy 500.
Defending champ Pat Bradley, Dottie Mockery, Betsy King, and Nancy Lopez play the final 9 holes of the JCPenney LPGA Skins game next on ABC.
Back at Indianapolis, we anticipate a stop-and-go penalty for Mario Andretti. The reason is this. Now watch the yellow lights right on the right-hand wall there. Mario was on the approach to the pits. He couldn't really commit over and go back onto the racetrack, but what they're supposed to do, if that yellow light comes on while he's rolling down the pit road, is go on through the pits and circle around again and wait for them to reopen. Mario Andretti back in the pits, in and out. This is not answering the stop-and-go penalty. This is a routine stop for him, and Arie Luyendyk is expected at the end of this yellow, as soon as they think they're very close to the end of it, that he will come into the pits and make a stop. But why would Mario come in at that point?
I don't know. I think his situation is not good with so many cars on the lead lap. When it goes green, if Mario is assessed to stop and go, that's about 45 seconds. And I think Jack has a much better update on that.
Well, there's no question in my mind that what he's trying to do is actually plead his case and say, look, I'll take the stop and go to the back of the line now rather than have to endure a stop and go under green flag conditions. Remember what Tom Binford has always said. The infraction and the penalty should fit the severity of the infraction. Considering the circumstances, you'll have to check with USAC, but I would think he may be trying to plead his case right now by making that stop and go now.
Yeah, and Jack, it doesn't seem like it was really a very great infraction, and yet the penalty, if he is forced to do a stop and go under the green, is going to drop him back to 10th. We only have less than 70 laps to go here, 67 laps to go. Even though he was the fastest and commanding vehicle on the track, it probably would take him out of contention for the win.
And that has always been the philosophy of the United States Auto Club. Make sure that the severity of the penalty fits the severity of the infraction.
Well, Tom Binford, the chief steward who celebrates his 20th year here, in fact writes in a book, My Checkered Past, that was just published, that that's one of his greatest concerns. He doesn't want to assess a penalty that then, if he finds out he's wrong, cannot be replaced. So they'll look at this one very carefully and decide what to do with and about Mario Andretti. Arie Luyendyk on the pit road, as Jack suggested, coming in, going to top off. They should be close to the end of a cleanup, but there is still a great deal of oil dry out on the racetrack from the Andretti car. And let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, this is what we call pit tactics and strategies. They've changed the wing. They made a major adjustment on the wing, going down on the wingtips. They have taken on fuel. Their thinking is now they can extend their fuel window. This becomes so very important with the ever-changing track conditions and the fact that track position has become so crucial here in the late stages of the race.
You get a glimpse there of Scott Goodyear as he came in and out as well with Arie Luyendyk, and Arie went into the pits as the leader with Scott Goodyear in second place. Both of them now come up to join the field.
The
assessment, and that's the blend line. They have to fall into the position of the car that they paced from over in turn one.
The severity of this penalty may very well determine the outcome of this race. I know Binford is a terrifically fair man.
So we continue under yellow at the Indianapolis 500. We'll be right back. Back live at Indianapolis. The yellow is still out. Let's go to the Emergency Medical Center. Jerry Punch is with Dr. Henry Bach.
And Henry just walked out. Henry, what's the status on the two drivers?
Jeff Andretti and Roberto Guerrero are both in here. They're both in good condition, awake and alert. Guerrero has a little bruise on his right knee and a bruise to his left shoulder, but other than that, in good condition. They'll be released from here in just a few minutes.
And Paul, certainly a tribute to the change and altered safety construction of these cars for 1993.
Much better results for Jeff, especially, than last year. Remember that last year Mario was forced to drive past his son's accident then, too. Allenser Jr. will sit at the head of the field, followed by Mario Andretti and then his father, former winners in the top three positions. But this is a very important time of the race as they pass through the midpoint and begin to look toward the last 100 miles. We asked Little Al, where does the frustration come into play during the course of a 500-miler?
Frustration that I've ever faced in the Indy 500.
is not being able to get my car working for me. After about 5 or 6 pit stops, the race is 3/4 over with, and I'm still loose. It it wears on you. So you know, if you can, for myself, if I can keep up with the racetrack and keep in tune with it, then there is no frustration.
What he's really talking about is driving here, you have the best of times and the worst of times, depending on the knife edge setting. And when you think also about the Andretti's, as you said, Paul, Mario having to drive by the wreck of his son as he did last year, and at the same time try to fend off a penalty that would probably cost him the race. I mean, at the one point, there's Shelley Unser, you see Al Jr.'s wife in the pits. But I mean, these scenes, they really come to a head.
Al Unser Jr., the leader of the race. We should be going green shortly. Kevin Cogan is now 15th after leading earlier. Jimmy Vasser, a quiet but strong run, has him in 13th. And Willie T. Ribbs now runs in 25th position. The pace picks up. The Camaro pace car down onto the pit lane. And we're green again at Indianapolis. Al Unser Jr. answers the green with a move to the inside. Mario Andretti chases him down into the corner. Gets cut low. Mario loses some momentum there.
The brightly colored car is Eddie Cheever. He's been lapped. Keep your eyes on Al Unser Jr.
Eddie Cheever runs 18th. Certainly not a factor in this race at the moment.
And as they come off of turn 2, I can just watch them kind of trying to get to the left ball to get that clean air so their front wings don't give way.
Al Unser Jr., the 11th different leader of the race, a new record at the Indy 500.
Paul, this race has taken a while to really develop, but it has developed now. It's a very exciting battle between the two great families of auto racing, the Unsers and the Andrettis, the Capulets and Montagues, you might say, of this sport. With, I still say, Nigel Mansell can't be counted out. He's fast and he's making up for lost time.
If they're concerned about rain, it doesn't seem to be a concern at all now. Nigel Mansell, you watch over his shoulder. Skies, in fact, brightened just a few moments ago. So again, we give you the rundown, this time after 137 laps. Listen in the corner just how much Nigel and everyone else have to come out of the throttle.
Surprising thing right now is the number 51 Eddie Cheever, who's definitely way down in the race, but he's actually pulling away from Little Al. He's in clean air and going like heck.
The Valvoline speed chart there. Mansell's last lap down at 196 miles an hour, running in traffic. Fittipaldi moved around the car ahead. Mansell is still in pursuit of Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi is 5th right now. Mansell 6th.
You know, like Mansell, I had a road racing background when I first came to Indianapolis. Of course, a much lesser caliber, but never mind. I found as I drove through my first Indy here that I really enjoyed it, and I suspect Nigel is finding the same thing. There's a rhythm to driving the track. The turns, people say, how don't you get bored? The turns are the same, just 4 turns over and over again. They change each lap because of the wind condition and the groove, as Bobby's been describing, and it's really fun to meet that challenge. I think Nigel's having a great day out there.
Al Unser Jr. still chased by Mario Andretti, the lead of the race, back with Nigel Mansell chasing Fittipaldi. Forward telemetry from Mansell's car.
Bobby, look at how little Nigel is moving that steering wheel. I think he's got a near perfect setup right now, and he's got the nerve to ride a high line off those turns. He's coming to you.
He's an extremely smooth driver. Of course, as he goes through here, he looks just as smooth as we see him on television, Tim.
Well, he carried speed in turn 1 all the way into the corner, or he jumped back out of the throttle.
I think you could compare Nigel Mansell with Little Al. Both of them are without doubt the two smoothest drivers we've had on the track today.
Let's go to Jerry Punch now.
Jeff Andretti just walked out of the infield care center. First of all, Jeff, how you feeling?
Oh, I feel fine. I got a few bumps and bruises, but I walked away from it all right.
What happened out there?
Well, just going down into turn 3, I saw Roberto coming up, but as we got to the corner, I felt that I had enough of the car ahead of him, and I felt that I should go in on the line. So I went in, but I didn't go all the way in on the line, but he had committed himself as well going into the corner, and we both met at the same point, and he just touched my rear wheel and got me sideways, and that's all, you know, just a racing accident out there.
The front of the car, a big difference from a year ago?
Well, the car, you know, my car was being really upset with the dirty air and everything. I just couldn't quite find the balance with my car, and so I was just really just trying to bide my time out there and just hang in there and trying to stay out of trouble, and that's what I was trying to do, and, you know, just trouble found me.
Unlike last year, in 1993, Jeff Andretti able to walk away.
But you know, the amazing thing is that Jeff and Roberto came together here on just the second day of practice. In that case, it was Jeff sliding up into Roberto, the reverse of what happened here, but they've connected with each other before in this month.
Battle for fourth now. Scott Brayton, the 22 car, is in it. Behind him, Fittipaldi and Nigel Mansell as they close in.
This is Brayton's 12th Indy 500. Very experienced driver. He said, I've paid my dues at Indy, but I know that when Indy pays off, it pays off big. And it's paying off for him right now here.
Evenly spaced into the first turn, the continuing battle for fourth.
Brayton's best finish to date, 6th, so he's running ahead of that right now. Very heady drive, and I think this is a man who really wants to finish this one.
As we watch this battle for fourth, the leader of the race, still Al Unser Jr., followed by Mario Andretti, and then Al Unser.
Now, Paul, to get a good example of what dirty air does to the race cars, Eddie Cheever is still pulling away from Little Al and Mario. Now, that shows you what happens when you're in clean air as opposed to running down behind the cars. That's the reason our speeds go from 195 up to 210 sometimes.
Fittipaldi inches up on Scott Brayton.
Bobby, we've talked about the engine battle.
More than inches up now as Fittipaldi moves inside Brayton and moves around him. So now Fittipaldi into third place. Mansell will line up behind Brayton as well.
And that means that Chevrolets are placed first and third. They were first and fourth before that.
So Fittipaldi in fourth. Scott Brayton in fifth. Nigel Mansell in sixth. Fittipaldi now looking for Al Unser. His red and white car should sit about 5 seconds ahead of Fittipaldi.
You can watch him get down on the rumble strips, Paul. It doesn't seem to be affecting his handling at all.
Roberto Guerrero has now come out from his visit with the doctors, and Jerry Punch is there.
Well, Roberto able to smile just a little bit. Roberto, what happened out there?
Well, I'm obviously very disappointed. The Budweiser car was running very well, and I thought I was clear passing Jeff Andretti, and he didn't think I was, and he closed the door on me, and we touched, and that was the end of it. You know, it was something that I was very afraid going into the race, the difficulty of passing people and making sure that you were through, but I thought I was, he didn't, and it's just one of those things.
Has it gotten very slippery out there?
No, my car was working very, very well. You know, we were working very well. We had a couple of stop-and-go penalties that didn't help at all, but we were still running really strong.
Roberto Guerrero.
Sad to see Roberto out of the race. You watch Al Unser Jr. now threading his way through traffic, and Mario is right there following him through. Look at Mario close in as Little Al is slowing down because of Eddie Cheever running a bit slower just in front of him, and Cheever having to handle up another slower car.
Little Al obviously thought he had a little traffic between him and Mario, a little bit of it.
Mario now looks for a pass to the inside. Boy, look at that swoop as Mario comes across and drops in behind Little Al, tries to get behind him and then under him in the corner, but he can't do it.
Yeah, that's a Ford and a Chevy right there. Mario's in a Ford, Little Al is in a Chevy, so we can watch that and see how the horsepower difference looks in these two cars, Paul.
But the disparity there was due to momentum issues rather than horsepower ones. But still, the battle between Ford and Chevy today is a very hot one.
Give Mario the board showing where he is in relation. I don't think he needs to know. He knows where that leader is.
That's what I was going to laugh about, Paul. He can see his mirror, not the 5/10 of a second that he is behind.
Again, 3 leaders at the front of the Indianapolis 500. 150 laps complete. 50 to go. Al Unser Jr. in front. Mario Andretti in second. Al Unser in third. All former winners of the Indianapolis 500. We continue to run under green. Shelley Unser keeps track of her husband from the pit area. Again, traffic a key factor. This track is somewhat narrower by about 16 feet than last year. Last year, you could move below that yellow line. It was paved. There was an apron down there. It no longer exists. The cars are slower because of that. Also slower because they've removed some of the aerodynamic devices from the underside of the car. Mario has him set up. Mario makes the move, and Mario is passed on the approach into the corner.
Now you can see how when Mario went by, the Little Al just backed off a little bit. The reason for that was he didn't want that dirty air upsetting his car because he'd been running in basically clean air. He wasn't too sure how it would handle right there, Paul.
And did you hear the crowd? They approved of that little maneuver. So now you have Al Unser Jr. and his father just behind him. So a family feud circles the Speedway now.
These two men, of course, Al Jr. and Sr. in the order you can see them here, ran first and third here last year. They are now running second and third.
So a new leader of the Indianapolis 500, it is Mario Andretti once again. Al Unser Jr. is second. His father is in third. Live at Indianapolis, while we were away, Emerson Fittipaldi slipped around Al Unser and into third place, and now look at him. He is positioned right behind Unser Jr., looking for any place that he can maneuver to pass. The leader is still Mario Andretti. 156 laps are complete.
Shades of 1989 when these two men battled each other for the lead right down to the last laps.
Fittipaldi has been able to close in from time to time, as you see it here. Now he looks to the inside, going to turn 1. Can't find the room that he wants.
You made the point at the outset, Paul. The history tends to repeat itself here sometimes, and we're seeing that happen in some eerie ways right now.
Bobby, they come past you.
Yes, and you know, Paul, I was going to mention some of the biggest things that the guys have that are secretive is how they make their front wings work better in traffic than the other ones do. Now, I get around and talk to some of these guys, and that is their closest guarded secret that they have.
The Valvoline race summary at 150 laps. That's 7 laps ago. At that time, Al Unser Jr. was the leader, but since then, of course, Mario Andretti has gone into the lead. Jr. to second. Al Sr., who was in third, fell victim to Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi comes around Stefan Gregoire, fastest rookie in the field. His team, by the way, his team brought a plane load, 100 people from France this morning. How did they do that? On the Concorde. Came in through Montreal, supersonic, and then down to Indianapolis. What a way to spend a day, Concording to Indy, see the race, and go home.
As we see Mario Andretti ripping along in the lead with only 42 laps to go, it starts to make you think how often he has come this far before only to have victory snatched away from him at the last moment.
Mario has led 3 times thus far for 59 laps of this race. Traffic still a critical factor for all of the drivers here.
You know, Mario had really a very lucky win at Phoenix a few weeks ago, and I think that in some ways it removed, kind of a monkey from his back, and I think he's in a position to enjoy the idea of good luck.
Fittipaldi looking for room inside of Al Unser Jr. The fight is for second. Fittipaldi is down there. Can he hold on? No. Little Al slams the door on him.
That's two Chevrolet engines right there. Boy, you can see they were just perfectly matched. The only way Emil was able to pull up alongside Little Al was using the draft, Paul.
Right now, within the top 10, 6 are Fords, 4 Chevrolets. Fittipaldi, as Little Al moves alongside of Jim Crawford. Fittipaldi comes up, moves along Crawford as well. But the momentum stays the same. Fittipaldi stays in position.
And this is where you have to race not only the track, but the traffic, timing your moves to coincide with the slower cars.
There's now 1/5 of the race left, 100 miles. There's Eddie Cheever into the pits. Appears to be all routine there. Most of the drivers will tell you the middle 300 miles, they take it easy. Easy if you can call speeds at 200 miles an hour easy. And then the last 100 miles is when you go. Is that right, Bobby?
Yes, that's absolutely right, Paul. But ironically, Eddie Cheever, during this particular course of the race, has been the fastest car.
Let's get an update on Big Al from Jerry Punt.
We have seen Al Unser Sr. back out of the throttle the last 5 or 6 laps. There's a reason for that. The car is overheating. I've just spoken with Brian Barnhart. They're going to hope to be able to milk it home to the finish. They're going to back off for another 4 or 5 laps, make a final pit stop, and let him turn it up and see if he can pick up the ride for 5. Paul?
And as he backed out of it, Nigel Mansell came around and into 4th place. So Al Unser on the cruise. That brings Mansell forward into 4th behind Fittipaldi. Let's see if we can pick him out. There's Fittipaldi. Mansell should be about 5 seconds back.
Fittipaldi moving by lap traffic. That was Dominic Dobson he dusted by.
The distance between Little Al and Fittipaldi has widened.
Once again, Little Al finds himself behind Eddie Cheever. Cheever has had an excellent month for himself here, earning a lot of respect.
You know, one of the major problems with overheating, Paul, these cars have is hamburger wrappers, hot dog wrappers getting into the radiator. That's what they'll be trying to check on Big Al's car when he comes in.
And by the way, don't think that Mario Andretti is well ahead. He is only 2.3 seconds ahead of this car, of Al Unser Jr. Fittipaldi is right behind Little Al right now, and we expect stops just any moment.
Mario is just about 3 seconds up at this point, leading by 3 seconds.
The pit stops for the leaders are generally in sync now. Mario Andretti's last stop was on the 132nd lap. For Little Al, it was the 127th. Fittipaldi's the 129th, as was Nigel Mansell's on 129.
And this is the final game planning, Paul. They're looking at this stop. And then, you know, they have to all be together for the last, because nobody wants to be coming in for fuel like 1 or 2 laps from the end. So they're really watching the game planning change now.
And Bobby, this is where the stop is so critical, not only in its time, but what you do to the car, because you're not going to have another chance. Here comes Little Al into the pits. Let's see what he does, if anything.
Little Al on the roll to pit road, and Gary Gerald waits.
Indeed, we watch, we look, and now we see the defending champion coming in. They were hoping, Paul, that they might have a shot at this being their last pit stop. If it's green the rest of the way, that won't be the case. They'll have to come for a splash and go. Remember, if you can save 2 seconds here, you save a couple hundred yards on the racetrack. And right now, Junior waiting for all of that precious fuel to be in. Now it is there, and he lights up those tires as he gets out in 16.4 seconds.
Bigger tires on that car now.
And Paul, I notice he's got brand new stickers on there, plus my calculations show he can go to the 200 laps, which would be the end.
So theoretically, the last stop of the race for Al Unser Jr. It's a sprint to the finish now. You notice that they have been picking up some debris, not only in the coolers, but the onboard camera on Al's car got some there. A crew member thoughtfully removed it as they did the stop. Let's go to Jack.
Paul, Mario Andretti and his crew are trying to run this final fuel stop as far as they can. They're hoping, as we watch Big Al Unser Sr. taking his pit stop, they're hoping to make their final stop of the afternoon. But it is a very, very tight window, and they're not sure yet.
Big Al, routine service here, waiting for the fuel to flow in. A squirt of water to clear the fuel off the side, and he stalls. He stalls immediately. They bring the starter over the wall, hook it to the back of the car. Very costly for Al. Let's go to Jerry Punt.
And they have refired the car
Big Al began to move away, and the crew has not cleaned the right side radiator out, so they stopped to clean the radiator. When he stopped, that's when the car stalled, but they were able to refire it. It cost him an extra 12 seconds here in the pits.
29 total seconds in the pits, dropped him to 11th place.
You know, the mechanics have those starters just sitting right there waiting because this is a common problem. It happens a lot, Paul.
It didn't take long to get the starter over the wall and then restarted, but it took long enough to be very costly to Big Al and change the complexion of this race. Little Al runs 10th now.
Well,
there went Fittipaldi.
Oh, we have Robbie Gordon just out of the pits, just pouring out. Down the bottom of the track, he's got big problems. This is liable to bring out a yellow.
Scott Brayton in and out. We got a glimpse just before he disappeared around the corner by the trees of Gordon with something misting at the back of the car. Brayton in 7th as he sits in the pits at this moment. Again, these will be the last stop to the green flag if everyone has done their calculations correctly. The 167th lap. And here is Fittipaldi in the pits, the second place competitor. Also the leader, Mario Andretti, comes to the Newman Haas pit. All of these under the green flag. Fittipaldi receiving service. They're waiting to wave him out. Mario's a little further down the pits, closer to the pit exit. Here comes Fittipaldi. He's on the roll. They disconnect from Mario. Mario will get out ahead of Fittipaldi. Mario, because of pit placement, can rocket out of the pits. The 100-mile-an-hour speed limit ends only a few feet ahead. Fittipaldi had to be careful and roll until he was past that mark.
That was the benefit of the good
Yellow flag.
Yellow.
And no indication yet as to why. This one comes a little late for Mario and Fittipaldi, though it may end up helping Nigel Mansell. So we're under the yellow. No indication as to why. We assume it is debris. Raul Boisel will pick up the lead. The yellow is on because of a toe-in on the circuit. We'll be back. Back under yellow at Indianapolis, the yellow because of Robbie Gordon's toe-in. You look down from the Goodyear Blimp Spirit. Some great pictures here today. Look at the gigantic crowd at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as Spirit floats so lazily over the speedway. In the pits now, the leader of the race, Scott Goodyear. He assumed the lead under yellow. This is actually his 8th stop of the day. He is 2 ahead of everyone else. And under yellow, he comes back into the action. So now Scott Goodyear moves back into the fight. Let's get an update from everybody, beginning with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we saw Mario Andretti and Nigel Mansell. They pitted before the caution, and there is a question mark as to whether they can finish the race without an additional stop to take on fuel. The same cannot be said, though, for Arie Luyendyk and the Ganassi Racing Team. They know now that they have plenty of fuel because they waited until the caution came out. They've set the bar setting for a soft bar, and what they've done is they've put on sticker tires. So they're going to the distance. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
In the Fittipaldi camp, they think this yellow will enable them to go the distance without coming in. In Little Al's pit, Rick, will you have to bring him in to top off?
We're going to bring him in right now, Jerry.
Okay, so Unser will be in here to top off, but he'll be at the back of the procession. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
And Allitzer Sr. pitted with 35 laps to go, guys. He can only run 32 laps, so he would not make it. That's why Brian Barnhart and the crew are going to bring him in. But they got another problem. He has a clutch that's slipping. That's why the car stalled a minute ago. So they're going to watch very carefully as they wait for Al Sr. to come on pit road. Will it stall? Will he lose his shot at number 5?
Al Unser effectively out of contention at this moment as the crew waits. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations. We're back live, the 77th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. 173 laps of the 200 to complete. We are still under yellow. During that yellow, almost everyone came in and made sure that their fuel tanks were totally full. The leader of the race is this man, Mario Andretti. Raul Boisel was in the top of the order, but then he was black flag, stop and go penalty under the yellow because he entered the pits while the pits were closed. So now we watch to see as the speed picks up. The Camaro pace car in front of this field, everyone closing in as tight as they can. Here will be the order. Andretti, Fittipaldi, Mansell, Brayton, Lyondike, John Andretti, and Scott Goodyear as the green flag waves already. Nigel Mansell sees it just ahead and threads his way through the middle of this field.
Look at how many cars are still running in this race this deep. I don't think we've seen this for years.
Record running to finish was 27, and boy, take a look as they move through this field now. Mario sitting up high. Fittipaldi comes down to the inside, and they battle side by side. Fittipaldi and Mario, and Fittipaldi surges to the front. Mario back to second.
Sam Mansell went right around the outside of his teammate Mario Andretti.
Now Lyondike moves on Andretti as well. Lyondike drops in behind Fittipaldi, and is already trying on Memo.
Obviously, Mario Andretti's had some sort of a problem.
The lead changes very, very quickly. As Fittipaldi comes to the front, Lyondike to second, Mario dropping back. Fittipaldi threading his way through traffic now.
Remember, they've just been in the pit. Their tanks are full. The handling is different than when they were last out there, and it is working for Emerson Fittipaldi.
The black and yellow car they were working around was Davy Jones.
No more pit stop. This is the race to the end.
Now here comes Fittipaldi as he tries to stretch out his lead and use traffic to his advantage. And at the top of the field now on that maneuver, Mansell moves toward the front on the official scoring. On board now with Mansell. Fittipaldi to second. Lyondike third. Mario fourth and Scott Brayton fifth.
A rookie leads the Indy 500 under green deep in the race.
And he passed everybody on the outside, the inside. He didn't care where he caught him. He went by what made it look like easy.
An incredible series of passes that puts the red number 5 at the front of the field. And he does it very quickly. Of course, the other cars in the lineup were a factor for everyone. While they were moving low to battle between Fittipaldi and Lyondike, it was Mansell high, Bobby.
Yes, he certainly was. He's using all the track. But remember, hey, this is the last pit stop. This is going to the end. This guy's learned all day long. Now he's after it.
Remember that no defending world champion has ever won Indy. An amazing stat, and right now, Nigel Mansell is in a position to become the first.
For the most part, he's running in clean air, too, Sam. That's going to be a big advantage right now for him.
23 laps away from that possibility of winning as the defending Formula One champion. Mansell.
Both the Newman-Haas cars running very strong throughout the whole race. One of the two Penske cars out, the other one, Fittipaldi, doing battle.
So you know what that sign means. It means you're down 2 seconds to Mario and 1 second ahead of the guy behind you.
Ahead of him is Lyondike. Behind him, Boisel. Mario runs in fourth. The order is still Mansell, Fittipaldi, Lyondike, Andretti, Boisel, Goodyear, and Brayton.
Hear him back out as he goes through the turns. Back into the throttle for the short chute. Back out again.
Carl Haas, the owner of Nigel Mansell's car, also Mario's car.
He's already chewed both ends of that cigar up, Paul.
He begins to slip a little bit behind. They give the board to Mario. Out very close to that wall down the backstretch.
And Bobby, you could tell the handling on Mario's car is not what it once was because he's late in getting into the throttle coming off the turns.
Well, Sam, I'm having a hard time figuring out right now whether it's the handling or whether he started off. I think when they had the restart of the race, he had an engine problem that wouldn't take off. But right now, I have to say he's got a little bit of a handling problem.
Not going to be a cakewalk for Nigel, though. Right behind him is Fittipaldi.
We can watch Nigel and Fittipaldi both come through here. The track is neutral. In other words, it's fast right now. And these guys are getting through here very good.
We'll stay with you now. The remaining 20 laps. They've just completed the 180th. It's 50 miles to go in the Indy 500.
A clear-cut battle between a very experienced driver here, Fittipaldi, and a former winner, and a rookie of enormous talent.
And here in the closing laps, too, you may get a glimpse of a slower car moving on one of the access roads. Another advantage to the change in design here at the track. Older days, that might have necessitated a yellow flag, bringing the field together again.
Look for slower traffic as they come up to lap, the slower cars being a factor. Emerson Fittipaldi should have more experience, but Mansell has learned so fast he's playing it well.
There's the interval leaderboard. You can see Lyondike is not that far back, nor is Mario or Raul. All of these cars run right together.
The Indy 500 has been getting closer every year for the last few years. 6 of the tightest finishes. There's Lynn St. James. A great run. Very disappointing for her to go so deep into it. She finished it last year.
Lynn St. James was that slower moving car. They give the board to Ari as Nigel Mansell continues to run out in front. Fittipaldi a second, Ari Lyondike third.
And Paul, as we watch Mario come through the number 2 turn over here, we hear him lift down the throttle really bad, which tells me he's got some bad handling problems. Probably the tires he put on the last just don't match the track right now.
Yellow once again. The yellow light has winked on, apparently for Lynn St. James. She did stop in a precarious position just above the pit entrance, so they'll have to get her out of the way. Everyone will bunch up once again. What we thought was going to be a sprint to the finish will become even more serious. Teresa Fittipaldi, now Carl Haas. They watch from the pits this turn of events. Kenny Bernstein watches his car.
This could play into Mansell's hands because he will have a clear track on the restart, not coming up to lap slower cars for several laps.
So now they are slowed down once again, with Mansell leading Fittipaldi and Ari Lyondike. Now what has Mansell learned on how to come back to green from these yellow flags? Momentum is absolutely critical at that point, where you pick up the throttle and whether or not you can surprise the person behind you. Lyondike weaves back and forth, keeping those tires warm. Again, it's Mansell, Fittipaldi, Lyondike, Bosell, and Mario Andretti. It looks like they're going to bring Mario into the pits. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, as Bobby Unser actually said, they looked like they were having a handling problem. They're going to take this set of tires off and put a set on that they had earlier in the race that he had radioed in, and Mario had said, save them, we may need them. He is going for them now. Nigel Mansell, on the other hand, has been told to stay out and wait for the green flag. But it's a smart move on the part of Newman Haas because Mario's got nothing to lose by getting these tires off. He's been fading quickly.
Right now, the no pit sign is in place at the top of the pits. Maybe we can get a glimpse of it as Nigel comes down alongside the pit road. Behind the Camaro pace car, Mansell leads the race under yellow, 183 laps into the record book. Teresa Fittipaldi, her lucky earring, as she waves Emo on every lap, trying to give him what she calls winning energy. It worked once before. It was worth $1 million for Fittipaldi. This restart, it'll be critical. Penske, the owner of Fittipaldi's car.
This is a bad break for Mario, Paul, because they're going to go green the next time. The crew's not going to be able to get those tires off.
The 51 car makes its stop into the pits. Gary Bentonhausen. Let's get an update on Fittipaldi from Gary Gerald.
One of the things they're optimistic about in the Fittipaldi camp, Paul, is the fact that they believe their car does work better as that fuel load recedes, and he's been hanging in solidly with Mansell, so they think they'll have an opportunity to challenge here in these final laps.
Well, this is going to guarantee, Paul, everybody enough fuel till the end, because all these yellow flags are really stockpiling the mileage they can have.
Fittipaldi, the lone Chevrolet representative in the top 5, out to battle all of these Ford engines. Roger Penske listening so carefully, wondering what will happen.
It's out of Penske's hands right now. It's up to the drivers.
It's out of everyone's hands, but these 6. Notice Raul is now up into 4th place. And here they come. The green flag flies. And Fittipaldi trying to catch position on Mansell. Is this inexperience for Mansell, giving it over to Fittipaldi? And look at Lyondike as he moves to 2nd place.
Desperate pass by Ari Lyondike, a very good pass. Really got Mansell asleep on that one. Boy, Fittipaldi runs through here. Turn 2 wide open, folks.
That was an inexperienced move by Mansell. He should have gotten on the throttle sooner. If it had been Fittipaldi or Little Al, you can bet they would have.
Fittipaldi becomes a record 12th leader of the Indianapolis 500 with 15 laps to go.
I just don't think Mansell...
Not over yet, Bobby.
I just don't think Mansell realized how hungry these guys were to try to win the biggest race in the world.
Jack Harut, you have an update on that pass.
Paul, Jim McGee was on the radio when they dropped the green flag, trying to tell Mansell how to get the jump. He didn't get it.
That comes from experience. He's learned all day, but he didn't learn that part. That through here, Lyondike's through here, and then Mansell all hooked up.
But Mansell has recovered his nerves. He now has 2 passes he must make. The first one on Lyondike, and then, of course, the one on Fittipaldi. Can he do it? 14 laps to go.
Don't give up on Raul Boesel, because he's in this chase as well.
They've just raised their speed up from about 197 mile an hour laps to running almost 210 mile an hour laps, Paul.
Sprinting to the finish of the Indy 500. The picture, of course, of Boesel as we watch Nigel Mansell. Fittipaldi just 1 second ahead of Lyondike.
Mansell's getting into the turns fast, but he's slow coming off of them, which is blunting his attack. And meantime, Fittipaldi is getting away. If Mansell's going to make a move, it's got to be now on Lyondike, or forget it.
And you know, right now, they've all got them in their race gears. Remember we said, they have a cruise gear and a race gear. I guarantee you they're all in the race gear right now.
13 laps to go. Remember, too, historically, the person who leads at lap 190 does not always win the Indianapolis 500. Closest finish among the top 3, 1.8 seconds in 86. Rahal, Kogan, Mears, owing to a late race yellow.
Emerson's pulling away just a little bit, but still looking very smooth through here, folks.
We have the makings of a very tight finish here at Indy. Boesel closes on Mansell. Lyondike closes on Fittipaldi.
And Fittipaldi, you might think at his age, he's in his mid-40s, would he be getting tired now? No. He is extremely fitter a couple of years ago in a contest at Pele. I think he's good for the last laps at full throttle.
Brazilians run 1st and 4th at Indy right now. Boy, Mansell got it way high coming off that last corner.
Mansell's battling it off the turns. There's no question. He's swooping into the turns well. He just can't bring the car off the turn.
The handling on Mario Andretti's car's also been fixed. We can hear him going through turn 2, and he's wide open, trying to catch the other guys.
So to speak, on the comparison between Ford and Chevrolet was that Ford had more power. But here, a Chevrolet in the lead is being pursued by 2 Fords, and they're making no impression on it at all.
Ammo is still pulling away, Sam. He's just pulling away a little bit each lap.
Well, if the common knowledge was that the Fords were faster, Fittipaldi is disproving that at this moment. Now 2.6 seconds ahead of Lyondike. Lyondike 3 seconds ahead of Nigel Mansell. The interval is widening at this moment.
And they sit right there and they adjust everything they can. They get their boost gauges where they get utterly the maximum boost that they can get. They have them again in their race gear. It's flat out to the finish.
Fittipaldi turned the last lap at 211 miles an hour, a full 2 miles an hour faster than Lyondike and 5 faster than Mansell.
He's run the race the way Rick Mears used to run it, just keeping in the headwaters of the race until the last minute, making sure that his setup was right, and then going for it. And you see the interval, it's going up.
And that interval's enough to where he can break the draft. They're not getting a lot of benefit from his dirty air behind him there, Sam and Paul.
Look at the distance now. Plenty of room between Fittipaldi and second place Lyondike. He pulls away, 9 laps to go.
Remember, Emerson won the championship and the Indy 500, as you see Roger Penske back in 1989. 4 years ago. 4 years is too long ago, Emerson said. It's time for something new.
Pass Bobby Unser again.
He's there still looking very good, too. Watch Mansell trying his best to catch up. It's yellow again, Paul.
Yellow. The yellow comes out. This will slow the field again. And depending on how long it takes, indication is that Nigel Mansell brushed the wall, and that brought out the yellow.
That comes as no surprise to me at all. He's been riding a fucking Bronco for the last few laps since the restart. Here he is. Let's look on the
over.
right.
Nothing obvious there. Nose wing is in place. All suspension members appear straight. Mansell doesn't seem to be bothered by it.
No, and everything is smooth. You don't see the car jumping or anything moving around erratic at all, Paul.
Equipment didn't roll, so they should be able to come back to green rather quickly. As soon as they get there. Look at Nigel jump. What's he doing there, Bobby? He took it over onto the rumble strips for a second. Let's watch here.
He's probably just feeling, trying to see if everything is all right. He knows what he's done, whatever it is, but it didn't happen over here, so I didn't have a report on it.
Bobby, if he brushed the wall slightly, he might have an alignment problem, and he just wanted to see right how the car felt to him.
Yes, that's right, Sam, but he gives no indication of wanting to pull in and get it checked.
No, I agree.
I think he's going for broke on the thing right now.
It's all he really can do. A pit stop he'd be history if he pitted.
Almost coming to a full stop as they bunch behind the pace car.
Going to be another bunch up. This is really making this one of the most exciting races I've seen.
This is the best opportunity for Arie Luyendyk all day. He's sitting right behind Emerson Fittipaldi.
Other cars waved around. Chip Ganassi, Luyendyke's owner. And everybody has another chance. Though in the last few laps, Fittipaldi has been a good 3 to 4 miles an hour faster than any of the other contenders.
You watch Roger Penske, he knows things can still go wrong.
And as they bunch up, Bobby, there are 10 cars on the leader lap. 7 laps to go. And here is Nigel Mansell on board, coming off of 2. Now watch him. Whoa!
Yeah.
He hit hard enough, Paul and Sam, to get sparks or get fire off the magnesium wheel. Pretty hard hit, so I think he's probably has a good chance it's out of alignment a little bit.
Plus, whatever stress damage may exist on that right front wheel and right rear for that matter.
Watch the magnesium right now. Just touch the wall right there. See the flame? That's the magnesium that literally explodes and burns a little bit for a while.
Boy, if you're going to kiss it, though, that's the way to do it. Mansell touches and continues on.
Boy, he rode that out, but now he's got to wonder what has happened to my front suspension. Has it been weakened by the impact? These cars are extremely strong. Chances are he's all right. If he isn't all right, he could risk a very big accident.
And as he goes by us here, we can see the white on the tires. We can see the white on the tires, but we can't see anything else wrong.
Mansell's confidence level might be down just a bit. Let's go to Jack.
Well, then again, it might not, Paul. He radioed into his crew. He said, I got a bit bumpy for a minute, but I'm going to stay out.
He is a fighter.
He is emerging as a master of understatement in this race.
But he does persevere. How many times in his career has Nigel come back from terrible adversity?
Well, with the retirement of Rick Mears and, of course, A.J. Foyt, great masters of the Speedway, people looking for new drivers to root for. Certainly the one we ride with right now, Scott Goodyear is one, and certainly Nigel Mansell is another.
Now let's keep in mind, Nigel hit fairly hard. Whenever you get that fire off the magnesium, it's pretty hard.
They're back green again. Now with 6 laps to go in the Indianapolis 500. Did Mansell learn enough on that last restart? No, Fittipaldi continues to dominate. But he did at least learn, as did Bozell, that they follow the leader everywhere they go. Now 5 laps to go.
Fittipaldi took that restart exactly the way you should. He got in the throttle first, as was his right as the leader of the procession.
Mansell didn't even give his car a chance to get checked out. The guy's going for the road.
Unbelievable personal courage. They call him the Lion, and you can see why.
But he continues to run high off of the corners. There he comes off fairly low. Mario comes off high. Fittipaldi still pursued by Lyondike. Just 10 miles left in the Indianapolis 500.
Emerson Fittipaldi, world champion twice back in the 1970s, retired from racing, came back into IndyCar racing, won the championship in '89, and now look at this.
Emil's pulling away just a little bit more again, just like he did after the last yellow.
Emil may be pulling away, but the top 8 are still running fairly close together on this racetrack. This overall in the top 10 may be the closest finish we've ever seen for the top 10 position.
Roger Penske's assessment of his man, Emerson, is tough, hard, and doesn't make mistakes. He has made no mistakes in this drive.
Lyondike is trying to catch him again. Lyondike's going clear down on the rumble strip, using all the racetrack he can go. He's really trying hard. I haven't seen him try this hard in years.
Bobby, he's 1.2 seconds back, but he continues to fall further back. He is not closing in.
He's not falling very fast, though, Sam. He's not giving up.
Emerson Fittipaldi can sense the checkered flag and its $1 million purse just ahead. He ran the last lap at 214 miles an hour, the fastest lap thus far in the Indy 500.
When he comes by here, he sounds like he's wide open. I can't hear him lift at all. Here he comes into turn 2 again, right down to the white line, out next to the wall, very conservative, but moving on.
The first 5 drivers in the race right now born outside of the United States. This is an international event.
Emerson Fittipaldi continues to pull away from Ari Lyondike. As we watch now for the white flag that will indicate Fittipaldi has just 2.5 miles to go for his second win at the Indianapolis 500. And there it is. Another Penske car heading into the record book. 2.5 miles to go. Fittipaldi works through the short chute, now into the second turn. One more full straightaway to run. 2 corners of short chute, and then half the stretch, and Fittipaldi will be home. Lyondike tried to close, couldn't do it, dropped even further back. In fact, it may become a battle for second between Mansell and Lyondike. Here comes Fittipaldi, Emerson Fittipaldi. The final turn for home, the checkered flag, and Emerson Fittipaldi has won his second Indianapolis 500. Fittipaldi led only the last 16 laps of the race to score Roger Penske's 9th Indianapolis 500 victory. Fittipaldi has won the 500. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, the jubilant scene. Here's Roger Penske in your 25th year, your 9th Indianapolis win. What's the emotion, Roger?
Well, I think it just proves that what a great driver Emerson is. We had a tough breaks in the middle of the race, but it's amazing. I don't know what to say. I'm just thrilled for our team, for Marlboro, our sponsors, and everyone, and especially for Rick Mears, who was here to help us get this thing done.
Congratulations. Get the victory lap.
Thank you.
So in his own way, Rick Mears figures into yet another Indy win. In second was was Ari Leyendyk. Mansell was third. Raul Boisel fourth. In fifth, Mario Andretti. Sixth, Scott Brayton. Scott Goodyear came across the line in seventh. Eighth was Al Unser Jr. Teo Fabi came across in ninth. And 10th was John Andretti. All of those on the leader lap. We'll be back to talk with our new winner right after this.
It is a very jubilant victory lane as Emerson Fittipaldi, first two-time world driving champion, now two-time Indianapolis 500 champion, driving for Roger Penske. It is 25th year of competition. Penske brings another car home in victory lane. Emerson Fittipaldi getting help from crew chief Rick Reineman to get the helmet off, and now he can hear the applause of the assembled multitude here. Emerson, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm so pleased. I mean, that's fantastic. The team did an incredible job, and we had a great recovery the whole month of May, and we did it. We did it.
You waited and waited and waited, and then made your move when it was most important.
Well, I think it was the last two yellows. We had great. No, I'm not having the milk. Thanks.
Now there's a first. Emerson, you're not going to drink the milk.
Well, I'm going to drink the orange juice. That's my producing, and I'm going to have this time orange juice. I produce orange juice.
Back in Sao Paulo, Brazil, he produces the orange juice, so he's going to go that way. But Emerson, let's talk about the restart with Nigel Mansell in the lead. Tell us about the move.
Well, I think it was a good move. You know, Nigel did a really good start too before last, but we were able to catch in again, and you know, the car runs perfect. What else can I say? I'm so pleased. Second win in Indianapolis. I mean, Roger Penske and his dealership, and Marlboro, his backup, and all the team, they did a beautiful job. Thank you.
Well, we have the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway here to make a very special presentation to you, Emerson. In addition to the Borg Warner Trophy, Tony George is here to make an extremely important presentation of the victory wreath. Tony?
Emerson, on behalf of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Corporation, it's an honor to present you with the Borg Warner wreath, signifying this is the second time you'll have your face on the Borg Warner Trophy. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much, Tony. You know, to win Indianapolis is the best event in the world. I'm very pleased. You guys put a great show here. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the racing fans that follow me up and all the good support. Thank you.
Emerson, compare this victory to your first victory.
That's one of a kind.
Well, I think I'm very, very pleased. I mean, it's very emotional to be able to win again in Indianapolis. I mean, it's great. And what else can I say, Jack? I'm so pleased with this win, and I'm so pleased. I even did not say, well, you know, I'm so emotional.
You were so quiet throughout the month of May, and it seems to be breaking loose to you now as you get the congratulations of your wife, Teresa. When you woke up this morning, what did you gauge your chances at winning to be?
Well, I think I had a great chance of winning. I had, you know, looking optimistic for the race. We had a good setup. The temperature today was exactly the same temperature when the car did the quickest run during the week. And I knew that we put that setup, and that setup should be good.
It's an extremely jubilant crew here in Victory Lane for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's 77th running of the 500.
21 lead changes among 12 drivers, and Emerson Fittipaldi ends up at the top of the order. Let's go to Jerry Punch with second place.
The 39-year-old Dutchman brought it home in second place, and Ari, you were battling an ill-handling car all day.
Well, my car really wasn't that good in traffic, and that's why at the end there, with Emerson running in clean air and me behind him, you know, I did everything I could, but the car picked up a tremendous push through the corner, and then right off the corner, the Jeep would go to a big loose, and last two laps, I just said, oh, forget it, it's not going to work. But, you know, the target team came through today anyway. I mean, we were running at 10th position in 60 laps to go, and the second to last restart, I said to myself, just forget it, I'm going to go bonsai a little bit, and I passed a couple of guys on the restart, and then I passed Nigel around the outside here, so I threw caution to the wind when it mattered, but I couldn't do anything about Emerson. He kind of tricked me out on the restart. He made me get all crossed up because he made me go down to second gear because he started off really slow. But, you know, I'm really happy for Emerson. He really deserves the win, and I'm really happy with second, although it's a little disappointing.
The 1990 winner finishes second today. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Nigel Mansell sits here on the wall after your first experience at Indianapolis. There was an apology you just offered to Carl Haas. I'm sure it related to how you lost that lead and had that close call against the wall.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've never been here before, and on the restart, I thought I got a good restart, and I just couldn't believe the ground that Emerson and Leyendyk made up on me. And, I mean, everybody, if you like, cheats on the restart, and I'm trying to do it by the rules because I don't want to infringe any rules, and I lost the lead, obviously, and then there was no way back, and I got close to Harry coming out of turn 2, and then I hit the wall real hard. I mean, I hit the wall at 200 and something mile an hour on the front right and rear right, and I mean, I hurt my wrist and my side a bit, but the car kept going. I couldn't believe it. I mean, then
Were you afraid you were going to have to come in and pit because of that?
Hey, I was afraid I was going to be in the wall permanent, but you know, then the yellow flag came out straight away after that, and I was able to do a couple of slow laps and just feel the car and check the car out, because for sure the tracking got altered a little bit on the front. I mean, you can see the outside front tires, but I mean, I'm just happy to have finished. I mean, you know, we perhaps could have won, but I'm very happy for Emerson. I think he drove fantastic, and you know, Harry Lyondike coming second too. I mean, I got the jump on one of the restarts to take the lead anyway, so that's the way it is.
After you bounced the wall, you were down in the rumble strips a couple of times. Was it hard to hang on to?
Hey, I had to be down in the rumble strips because I had altered the front end and I was just pushing understeering too much. I mean, I can tell you, those last few laps, they were agony, but I'm pleased it's over now.
Welcome to Indianapolis.
Thank you very much.
All right, Jack.
The man that started third finished fourth, Raul Boisel, but you don't look like you're very happy.
No, I'm not. In my mind, this race is mine. I've been penalized twice, 2 stop and goes for no reason. I don't see why they did. First, they said I was over the limit on the speedometer, and I couldn't find where, because I was not. I was careful about it. The second stop and go, I was already coming to the pits on the yellow cam. I have no choice if not coming to the pits, and they penalized me twice. So this race, in my mind, is mine.
During the course of the running of the race, though, how difficult was it to contain that kind of emotion and that kind of anger and still do the task at hand?
Well, I just try to do the best I can, run as fast as I can, and don't worry about. But you know what I can do. You know, twice. You know, I was screaming to the pits, say why they penalize. I wasn't over the limit. I was already coming to the pits when the yellow came. I'm really disappointed.
Paul, this other Brazilian is not at all happy.
And like others before him who believe that they in fact have won the Indy 500, beginning in 1911, where Mulford thought that he in fact was ahead of Ray Haroon at the finish. But today it is clearly Emerson Fittipaldi, the winner of the 77th running of the Indy 500. Coming up next on ABC Sports, it's one of golf's most entertaining events, the final 9 holes of the J.C. Penney LPGA Skins Game. That's next here on ABC. And let's take a look at the race summary now. The Valvoline race summary. Emerson Fittipaldi wins the Indianapolis 500. His margin of victory, 2.8 seconds over Ari Lyondike. And the rundown of everyone finishing in the field. It was a tremendous race, 24 cars running at the finish. As we look through the entire field now for the Indianapolis 500. Nigel Mansell will leave here still leading in PPG standings by 7 points over Mario Andretti. But there they are, the participants in the 77th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And the final 3, Danny Sullivan, so surprisingly the first out. Now, we take a look. This was the next to last restart. Look at Nigel as he swept around and picked up the lead of the race while Fittipaldi came underneath Mario.
And Paul, the whole issue at the beginning was, would this make a good racing track, narrowed up as it was in the turn? And the answer is emphatically yes. Some tentative opening laps, it was terrific.
I don't think there's any question about it. And then the last restart of the race itself. As Fittipaldi streamed to the lead of the race, chased by Ari Lyondike, and that's what Ari said. Fittipaldi kind of snockered him there. So Emerson Fittipaldi, using his experience both from Formula One and from the IndyCar, scores his second Indianapolis victory.
And Chevrolet's 6th consecutive victory.
Chevrolet still the king at Indy here, though Ford looked very powerful today. Emerson Fittipaldi will now look forward to at least $1 million in purse. Unlike in past years, they won't have to wait until tomorrow morning for the posting. It will become official later this evening, though perhaps Raul Boesel will as yet have something to say. The 77th running of the Indianapolis 500 is now history, and Fittipaldi is the champion. The executive producer of the Indianapolis 500 is Jack O'Hara. Today's show was produced by Bob Goodrich, directed by Don Ohlmeyer. Technical director, Richard Drummond, Joey Chavos. Associate producers, Ben Harvey and Debbie Cole and Mike Roth. Associate directors, Norm Samet, Patrick McManus, Vince D'Addario, and Jaime Bravo. So the race has been run now for the 77th time. And Emerson Fittipaldi joins a group of two-time winners like Tommy Milton, Bill Vukovich, Roger Ward, Gordon Johncock. Now Fittipaldi adds his name to that list and looks for a third win at the Indianapolis 500-mile race. The celebration already underway as the victory lane is broken down, and Fittipaldi will take a victory lap around this 2.5-mile oval in a final salute to this giant crowd. The rain predicted at the start of the day has kept away. It was a clean race to the finish. No injuries, a safe race, though there were some impacts with the wall. Overall, it was Emerson Fittipaldi who was able to persevere and pick up his win at the Indianapolis 500. But it's still a long season ahead. A week from now, we'll be in Milwaukee for the Milwaukee 200 on that famous and antique Milwaukee Mile. But for the moment, the Penske team can bask in the glory of yet another victory. They averaged 157.207 miles an hour to put Emerson Fittipaldi in front at the checkered flag, 2.8 seconds ahead of Arie Luyendyk. Nigel Mansell was third. I'm Paul Page for Sam Posey, Jack Arute, Gary Gerald, and Jerry Punch. We've enjoyed being with you in this 77th running of the Indianapolis 500. The new track and its configurations worked well, and it has only whet our appetite for the 78th running 1 year from now. So long from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
ABC Sports exclusive coverage of the Indianapolis 500. Brought to you by the Heartbeat of America, Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealer. By A1 Steak Sauce. A1, it's how burgers are done. By Miller Lite, it's everything you want a beer to be. And by Fruit of the Loom, clothes for the best of your life. Coming up next on ABC Sports, the leading ladies of golf hit the links for high-stakes excitement. Player of the Year Dottie Mockery, LPGA champ Betsy King, Hall of Famer Nancy Lopez, and defending champion Pat Bradley meet in the finale of the JCPenney LPGA Skins Game. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.